Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. I am Josh Henning.
I'm Phil Gerber.
I'm Jeremy Gerber.
Welcome, everybody, back to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. Today's guest is TV host, automotive journalist, and creator of The Late Break Show, Jonny Smith. We've also got another episode of Roadster Shop Hall of Fame. Possibly. Maybe. We'll see. You have to stay around to the end for that.
It's a waiting game.
Yeah. We haven't discussed what the Hall of Fame would be yet, so.
It'll be exciting when we see it.
It'll surprise all of us. All right. Today's guest has been an automotive journalist for more than 20 years and featured in such international publications as Car, Octane, FHM, GQ, Max Power, and Autocar. He's also hosted several BBC TV shows to include Fifth Gear, Motorheads, and Mud, Sweat, and Gears. Today, Jonny Smith is best known as the creator of the Late Break Show YouTube channel and website. He also co-hosts the popular Smith and Sniff podcast. It's a pretty good name. Smith and Sniff. Jonny is also a prolific collector, having owned more than 130 cars, including Japanese imports, American muscle cars, and Eastern European imports. You can check out Jonny Smith on Instagram and YouTube at The Late Break Show. Jonny Smith, welcome to Oil and Whiskey.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
This is, man. This is going to be cool.
It sounds glamorous, me having 130 odd cars over the years, but I'm going to be honest, most of them were rubbish. I mean, there's been, I'd say maybe 20 of those are impressive at the most.
I know it, man. When people ask us about, like, well, you guys got a big hot rod shop, you must have a really great car collection. Like, I have tons of cars. I'm like, well, yeah, I think, and we probably got there's like 40 or 50 of them, but and like 10 or 12 of them are sitting out in the lawn, incapacitated. I think amongst that whole group, there's one or two that you might be able to get in and drive. But yeah, no, I feel your pain. I know where you're at. That's
exactly it. It's how many are functioning. That's always a completely different percentage. How many cars you got? How many work?
Right.
The accent is throwing me off a little bit. It's because you can tell he knows what he's talking about based on the accent. I wonder if if they hear me talk, they're like, oh, that dude must know what he's talking about.
No. We've got polar opposites here because the British accent you associate with like
intelligence,
yeah. And now you, on the other hand, I mean, no disrespect out there, but Josh here is from Alabama.
Yeah.
So,
but it's all one it's like one of my good friends is he builds hot rods called PJ and Bircher, and he is based in Tennessee.
Yeah.
You might know B-Rod and Custom.
Yeah, he built the ice cream truck back in the day.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And he's doing a lot of stuff with the classic Corvette bodies and things. And he always made a joke to me. He always said that he sounds like the most stupid person you're ever going to meet, but he's actually one of the most switched on, sharp guys in this business that I've met, and he's lovely. So I won't judge. Also, if I sound intelligent, it doesn't mean I am. I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Well,
I'll pretend.
I'd like to say the same goes for me. If I sound stupid, I'm probably not, but
no comment.
We'll just get right into it.
Yes, you sure will.
On the intro, you called them European imports. Are they considered European imports where you're from?
Eastern European imports. Okay. So it'd be coming from Eastern Europe into Central Europe, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's been a couple of Eastern Europe. Well, I bought my brother for his 40th birthday a Trabant because he loves two-stroke cars, and they're quite amusing. I don't know if you've ever had a poke around a Trabant before, but it's unusual.
I've never heard of a two-stroke car. I mean, two-stroke dirt bikes.
Two-stroke car, yeah, two-stroke car, yeah. So even the deluxe model didn't get a fuel gauge. It had a dipstick for the fuel tank. Very, very big, like a vertical twin, air-cooled, front-wheel drive, transverse leaf spring, I think. Body made out of reconstituted cotton fibers, a mad, pre-Berlin Wall falling down kind of Eastern German thing. And and I bought...
That's quite a piece there.
Kind of looks like the car you'd see on like a merry-go-round ride.
It's like the car from that cartoon, The Incredibles. It's the Mr. Incredible drives. He can't really fit in it. It looks really similar to that.
What size wheels are those? Are those like 12s?
12s. I think they are 12s, actually. Yeah. Yeah. It's very light.
It's almost like a little Datsun 510, but maybe a little smaller.
Yes, like that, but engineered on a much smaller budget, I would say.
East Germany, Trabant.
Quite the unit right there.
East German Trabant, yeah. So they stopped making those in 1991, the year after the Berlin Wall fell down, or 18 months after the Berlin Wall. So I bought my brother one the month that the Berlin Wall fell down. It's one of the last of the two-strokes, which in the Trabant community, that's quite a thing. So he's got the one.
So the Berlin Wall comes down, and they're like, you know what? It's about time. We're fixing to show the world what we got. You know, we're fixing to get after it, and that was what they brought to the table.
I think the Berlin Wall fell down, and they saw what was on the other side, like Volkswagen Golfs that were actually quite good, like Golf GTIs and BMW M5s, and they were like, shit. We can't compete with this.
Yeah, let's just get something done, get it out there.
But mission abort. Mission abort. They put a VW engine in it, but it wasn't as good.
Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your background and how you got into this crazy world that we laugh at and all are waiting to get caught. Like, 'cause we all could be having a real job, you know. Let's face it, we're doing something that's pretty fun. So,
very much so. I think I started. I realized at school and probably at college that I was good at English, and I wanted to do. I loved magazines, so pre-internet, loved car magazines. Couldn't get enough of them. If anyone was ever going to another country, I'd always try and get them to bring a car mag back. And used to love watching films just for the car content, regardless of the storyline. And I'd have like a photographic memory. We'd remember what cars were where in everything from like old episodes of Columbo to the latest film. And then decided, I thought, well, what should I do? And started to study sort of media studies and things like that. And then eventually I went to university and ended up getting my foot in the door as a sort of junior writer on a car mag, a one make car mag, which was like a classic Volkswagen, air-cooled Volkswagen magazine. And then that was my start of my career, really. And then gradually worked on various different titles, classic car titles, mainstream automotive stuff, and then went freelance, and then kind of fell into television sort of by accident. But again, doing always cars. My hobby's always been cars, classic cars traditionally, and custom cars. And then my business became more new cars. So that was the kind of yin and yang going on in my head. And then fast forward to kind of, I don't know, the last 7 years, been doing more on YouTube as that's grown as a media, mostly doing content for other people. And then decided, this was pre-COVID, about 6 weeks pre-COVID, decided to go at it alone, create my own brand, and finally kind of be free from the constraints of any TV commissioners or anybody else, and just do the car content, the vehicle content that I wanted to do myself. So maybe selfishly, I don't know. But and then so in all that time, since the late 90s when I started on car magazines, I've had various projects, or there's always a car or two that need working on or finishing, or I get distracted and I buy another one. And yeah, I've always had a bit of a fascination for American cars. So I'm a bit unusual in that I always aspired to own an American car in Britain, which is unusual. And then, but I also like really tiny cars as well. So at one point, I had a Cadillac and a bubble car at the same time, which is about as far away from one another as you could possibly get. So, yeah, and I can, to this day, that those interests have never escaped me. So I've got one eye on the future of cars, electric cars, and what's coming next. And on the other eye, I'm looking at what's already been, what is the next kind of resto mod, what car do I fancy, or what should I stop looking at and finish what I've already got, which I've got many unfinished projects, or have had, so I'm easily distracted.
Not to sound too stupid, but What's it like driving a Cadillac over there? I mean, obviously, that's be difficult in the city. I mean, you have to pretty much be out on the country roads, don't you?
Making 3-point turns around town with that thing. Probably.
I mean, parking spots aren't even the size.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're not. No, they're not. It's not. It's too big for the town. I mean, I owned the Cadillac when I lived in London just for fun because I didn't need a car every day. I used to cycle to work because it was quicker than driving actually. So at the weekend, I'd have this. It was a 76 Fleetwood, so it was a 500 cubic inch, big bastard thing, and it was really cheap because I bought it from a film company. They'd used it for a small film, and someone had painted it with a roller. It was terrible.
It's a real nice job then. Huh?
It was really quite shabby, but it was all there. It ran. It was cheap, and I thought it's just an itch I've got to scratch. So I had that 76 Fleetwood for a while, and it was quite amusing driving that around London. But like you say, it didn't really fit. It didn't fit anywhere. But I've ever since then actually I've had a one American car at some point, and I quite like the challenge of driving left-hand drive. I don't know if you guys have ever driven a right-hand drive in the US, but it's that challenge of positioning the car on the road, and it's a bit odd. Well, you guys have the postal trucks, which are right-hand drive, don't you?
Yeah. And we've got a couple employees that embrace the right-hand drive.
The ones that little Mitsubishi,
Pajero.
Pajero,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah. It's like modded out. It's pretty trick.
Chris, our designer, he's got he's from Scotland, right?
Yep.
And he's got a Defender.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So they're harder to drive around in London than a Cadillac, I'd say. Is the turning circle.
And the Cadillacs cracked me up when you said you got a 76 Cadillac and you said it's too big for this town. I feel like whoever bought that car in 76, that's what they were thinking. Yeah. Like that's like I feel like that's Cadillac.
The marketing motto.
Yeah, too big for this town.
It'd be a good country song.
It would. I can't stop thinking about
it. It would be good for a good country song. Yeah. It was one of those cars where I think it was when I read about it when I first bought it, it said it was the biggest post-war Cadillac ever made, non-stretch. And I bought it. I'm trying to remember. I paid like £200. It was really small amount of money. And I sold it to a guy who lived on a boat. I remember that. And I said, why, what do you want it for? He said, oh, I'm going on holiday with some friends to Scotland, actually. We're going to tour around Scotland, and there's 6 of us, and we can fit in this easily, and all our stuff, no problem. Don't need a roof box, don't need a trailer. So they were just going to use the Cadillac for this big road trip. And I kind of miss it. But
there's a lot. I mean, not to hang on the Cadillac too much, but no offense, but you've got a look that you could be from a lot of different places in the world.
Yes,
and you driving around in London in this big Cadillac. I mean, the stories people probably told themselves, like, what you just needed, like a leopard.
Don't look him in the eye. Do not look him right in the eye.
It's really funny you should say that because. That was the car that no one would make eye contact with me in. I used to pull up to the lights in it, and I would turn like this, and then just stare without blinking to see how long it would take for that person to. And they never looked at me. They knew I was looking at them, but they never looked back. So I just used to do that, wait for the lights in the corner of my eye to go green, and then just kind of smoke off.
Yeah.
And it was a weird. I mean, it was a bit of a. It did look a bit like the sort of car you might get kidnapped in an old film.
Oh yeah.
So it was a bit creepy, but it was fun. It was really good fun.
What American cars?
Putting money on it.
What American cars do you have now?
Today, I've got a Dodge Charger and a Chevrolet Impala. So I've got the 2 American cars which I always aspired to own. The Impala's the never-ending story. It's still not finished. It's been the longest, most drawn-out project of my life. But I'm in too deep now. I can't turn back.
What's the culture like on as far as like daily drivers and driving around I feel like the old joke is, most of the world looks at America as, fat, overweight, everything's in excess, too much horsepower, too much, everything like that. And you're driving around in a, you said a Hellcat, or yeah. What's the overall like vibe on you just driving that, parking it, and people like, is that accepted? Is it cool? Is it like
key in the car and throwing paint on it?
No, I think right now it's okay. I mean, it's accepted that you wouldn't drive a car like a classic Charger in Britain every day. You'd be mad, and you'd be broke. So it's a treat when you see it out. And I think I've noticed that the sort of demographic of people that appreciate it more has got younger over the years. I was expecting it to get older, but I think because of those cars appearing in certain key films and maybe TV commercials and owned by famous people, and also a lot of people who collect lots of exotic cars, they go through the phase of I've had the Lamborghinis and I've got the McLarens and I've got the Ferraris and I've got the Porsches, and they sometimes come back round to like, well, what about more kind of attainable, kind of working class fun stuff? And that usually is either you get British cars from the 60s and 70s, like Escort Mexicos and things that are a bit cheeky, and then you get American muscle. And I think I've noticed in the last decade, if I turn up at a cars and coffee type show that mostly has European or supercars at it, that my car will just get so many admiring looks. And I get people in Ferraris coming to me to want to talk to me about my car. Whereas I think before it was a bit like, if you drive an American car in the UK, you have to dress like either Elvis or Willie Nelson, and they expect you to live the cliche, and it's like, no, I'm not going to dress like a cowboy. I just like a Dodge Charger, that's all.
So the Charger and an Impala, were those driven by like movies? I mean, was it like Bullet and Boys in the Hood that you grew up watching and you're like, that's what I need. I got to have one of those.
You've hit the nail on the head. I think the chart, obviously the Dukes of, I'm in my about to turn my mid 40s, so I think Dukes of Hazzard was a big influence in the 80s, along with all the other 80s greats like A-Team and all that stuff, Ghostbusters and Knight Rider. So, but I remember that the General Lee was always amazing and is always fun, and it still is actually. But as I got a bit older, and my dad introduced me to Bullet. I remember one day my dad saying to me, because he knew me and my brother used to love cars, and of course we didn't have a VCR, so if a film was on, you had to just watch it, and that was it, right? Yeah. And my dad said, tonight I'm going to let you guys stay up late if you want to. There's a film on that you should watch. It's got the world's longest car chase in it, and we were both like, we're in. Okay, let's do this. And he tried to explain it that earlier on in the day. And then we watched it, and I was just blown away by it. I didn't know who Steve McQueen was, and I didn't really know much about the plot because I was too young. But I think the Charger still, it just has so many interesting shapes to it, and I always thought that's a car I've got to own at some point. But I also really like the earlier Chargers, the first generation Chargers. So I when I originally started looking for a car, like a muscle car, I started looking for Roadrunners or first-gen Chargers, and I thought I'll just try and find the right condition car for the right money and just see what's out there. And I ended up nearly buying a 68 Roadrunner 383 manual. Weirdly, it's the same 383 manual as my Charger, but and it didn't happen. But yeah, so all of those cars were always on my kind of radar. And yet the Impala was completely Boys in the Hood. And then I became obsessed with the Knight Rider thing.
I'm on fire today.
You are on fire tonight.
Your telepathy is really working.
I'm in your head.
So of course, and then listening to all that kind of gangster rap with references to 6.4s all the time. And I thought, and I've actually had two 64 Impalas. The first one was, the one I've got, the one I've spent all the money and time on is an SS. But the first car I got was a factory right-hand drive 4-door hardtop. So it had been in this country since nearly new. And it was probably a rarer car, but it's just less desirable because it's not a 2-door, it's not an SS. And I really, since then, I miss that car. But I've got quite into finding factory right-hand drive American cars because there's sort of pockets of them, but they never really get the money and time and recognition that they deserve because they were really expensive cars when they were sold. If you had a you know, like in 1967, if you bought a brand new Ford Galaxy right-hand drive in London, like you were a rock star. And there weren't many around. And my dad said to me, if you ever saw a right-hand drive American car, like that was it, that person was obviously important. That was not just an average woman or guy. And I've subsequently owned a couple of right-hand drives, including a Pontiac. My friend owns it now. Unfortunately, it's a wreck. You guys need to restore it. It's terrible. It's a terrible state. It's a 66 Pontiac. You know that Pontiac 2+2 project that I saw on your... It's a convertible. It's a Parisian.
Oh.
A 66 Parisian cabriolet. What is it? 283 Power Glide. But yeah, it's a great car. It deserves a full resto though. Poor thing. It's lived in Britain too long. It's a bit crumbly.
How easy is it to come across American cars out there, classic American cars? Is it something that you can jump on like Facebook Marketplace and start digging around and here's one right down the street? Or is it
you can?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, since the internet, obviously everything's a lot easier. There's a magazine that's been going for like forever in the UK called Classic American. And that was the mag that I used to pick up because it was your sort of your Bible of UK and European American car clubs, feature cars, and where you buy these bits. So if you go through that, or you go to a couple of car shows, there's often a sort of a legion of American car owners, but there's a couple of dedicated American car shows around the UK, and surprisingly big. There was a massive hot rod show last year. I forget how many people attended it, but I did go there. I did a little video for the Late Break Show actually, and it was a huge gathering of 32 Fords mostly, but everything and anything, pro street stuff. And there's a off the side of that, the American car scene, there's a small but really dedicated drag racing scene in the UK, and we get a lot of Europeans coming over to compete here too. You know, a lot of Belgians, Germans, Scandinavians who are really pretty good, as you probably know. They're well into their hot rods, and so they come over, and we get to see quite a lot of cars that way. So through the American car kind of community, I have met some fantastic like privateer drag race guys, and they've built some great stuff. But I think some of the American cars that have arrived here have come via the US Air Force, the US bases. So where I'm in the middle of the country, basically where I live, and there's two big American US Air Force bases. And historically, they can bring whatever they want over. You know, they get their cars air freighted over. So I made friends with one 15 years ago, a guy that had brought his Impala over, and he was doing work on it and used to drive it around. And he said, if you ever need any parts, tell me, and here's my like a US military address. Order it with my military address, and they air freight it free of taxes within about 2 days of you ordering it. So it's like, shit.
Yes.
Okay.
If you ever want to do anything crooked, you can always count on the American government, you know?
Well, I was going to say, the American government definitely did them proud, but for certainly for getting mechanical stuff, it's always been quite easy. But for bigger stuff, you know, like bonnets and doors and trim and all the big stuff is much harder to get. So
this is going to be, I'm sure, probably wildly offensive to
go ahead with it.
This is
Lead
just
in with it.
from an American,
with all due respect.
Yeah, with all due respect. No, from why is it that, like you said, Scandinavian, the Swedes, they've always, at least as long as I've been around in the high rod scene, custom motorcycles and stuff, they've always had way more hardcore, badass, fenderless, a lot of stuff that we were doing over here. If you were going to be like, outlaw motorcycle clubs and stuff like that, they were just hardcore. Whereas, you know, in England, it's always, is that just been forever, centuries of
being proper,
the highbrowness of, we're going to be a little bit,
I think they're definitely like way above us in motorsports, but when you get into the Scandinavian stuff, they're just trying to like mimic the American culture of like the outlaw.
They've just always been way more badass than anything that you see come out of, England has always been way more you've got cafe racers and you got
polite.
it's everything way more polite. It's just
we are a bit more reserved and polite. We kind of we go there, but then we sort of apologize if we're gonna be an outlaw. We'll apologize first.
I guess.
So yeah, there is. I think the great thing about the Scandinavians, I think, is they've just their I don't know, their culture is so fascinating because on the one hand they're very quite clean living, really into renewable energy. Obviously, their lifestyle, they have a good standard of living, and they're all like sexy people, right? Yeah. They're all good looking. I've never met a bad looking Scandinavian man or woman.
They fuck with some furniture too, man. I mean, that's,
that's right. So and they've just got that great eye for style. It's almost effortless to them. And so when they put together a hot rod or a custom bike or something, I don't know, it just seems extra special. Yeah. And when I went over there, I've been over there to some of the American car shows they do, that huge one called Vastaras. I mean, it's massive. It's a whole town that just gets mobbed by old American cars, loads of fins and chrome. But it's also, again, quite a young thing. There's a lot of men and women under 30, which I just wasn't expecting. And I don't know. I think their winters, because their winters are long, and their standard of living is high. I've been in a few of their workshops, and they're insulated, very cozy. Their workshop's better than my house, so they go in there and they really go to town when they're building, and then when the sun comes out in the summer, they're all out there like bees. They do. They're really great. I love Scandinavia. It's a great places. Yeah.
What's the daily car scene like where you're at?
The daily car scene.
Daily, weekly, like a lot of local cruise nights and cars and coffee type stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty vibrant. I mean, the climate, like now being in January and well into winter, people are quite selective about bringing old stuff out if there's ice and salt on the roads, because it will destroy your car. Cheers, guys. Cheers. I haven't got a whiskey, I'm afraid, but so I think that there's a lot of vibrant, kind of well-subscribed, like casual cars and coffee type meets. There's workshops that open up themselves to having like a Sunday breakfast kind of club. And when those things go on, they're not just like one make type of deals. They try and be a little bit more welcoming. So the ones that I personally enjoy the most are where it's a free for all. You'll get one person turning up in a 1920s Alvis, and they're parked next to a guy in an R34 Skyline, and they have a chat. They might not own the same car or even fully understand one another, but there's that mutual appreciation of different metal. And then there's a lot of racetrack meets because we have quite a lot of racetracks. So I suppose there's quite a lot of run what you brungs and those sorts of things, and drifting's become, like it has in the States, it's become so popular, especially amongst young people. So there's a lot of drifting which goes on, and then you have the more serious motorsport people like rally and hill climb and stuff like that. But the car scene's good. I think it's quite healthy. I think for a small country, it is spookily well subscribed. I said this to someone. I said there's 40 million cars in this country, and yet it's really not a very big country. I don't know where they all are. I don't know how they fit in here.
What's the stereotypical, like, boring, that guy just went in and said, I want a car?
Like the Toyota Camry?
Yeah, over here I was going to say, it's a 2004 Champagne Toyota Camry over here.
Camry.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the same thing there.
Is it the same thing there?
Well, we don't get Camrys anymore. I think they stopped bringing them in the late 90s.
Oh, wow.
Lucky.
The equivalent of Camry guy is, what's a good one? Probably there's a Vauxhall, like what would it be? Like a Chevy or a Buick. In fact, you get it. The Buick Regal, which is, we have it as the Vauxhall Insignia. And it's okay. But there's no owners clubs for them. I don't think anyone really gives. No one really gives a shit.
Yeah.
And it's not a flamboyant, charismatic car. So that's just a tick box of I need a car. It does a thing.
Yeah.
Let's just get it over and done with.
Yeah. The Buick over here is traditionally obviously been for a way older crowd. They've been trying to market it, to that hipper audience. Like, oh, it's a Buick. Yeah, it's still a Buick. Yeah. I've
never owned have I ever owned a Buick? I've always wanted a Grand National.
Oh,
always.
Yeah, we've got one sitting right behind me here in the showroom.
Yeah, we just finished one up, debuted at SEMA this year. Yeah.
Oh, such a cool car.
Yeah,
I really like those.
It's a neat car. This one's makes gobs of horsepower. We LS swapped it with twin turbos, but it was like a super clean survivor example of a low mileage, awesome Grand National, which
that was stoking that fire to get the comments.
Yeah,
man, I was going to say,
sure, but
you looking for trolling?
a little bit, but that was my first experience ever driving one. I mean, I grew up in that era. I wasn't like a big fan of them back when I was a kid, but it was fun. We kicked that thing around a little bit. It's a little. I mean, you drove it, right? You drive it?
Yeah.
It comes on to let you know it's got a turbo.
It's like,
and then you're waiting for like what's about to happen, and nothing really happens.
Yeah, it's like just enough power to make you realize, like, okay, I get like why somebody might want one of these in their stock form, but
I
suppose
it's of its time, isn't it? It's so of its time.
Yeah. It's got just enough boost to be like, hey, turbo. And then that's it. Yeah.
I think the key is to have the original like Survivor tires with it too, because that would it'd glaze them and like at any speed just blow them off. But otherwise,
I got it's the kind of car which for years over here there were a couple, but like a couple, they weren't worth very much because nobody really knew about them. And then but a friend of mine has got is it the Cyclone, the GMC Cyclone?
Yeah,
it's the same. The Typhoon. Which one's one's a pickup and one's the...
Yeah, the Cyclone was the pickup. The Typhoon was the little like Blazer Jimmy type.
Yeah. That's right. So he's got that one, I think. And again, that's not a car which anyone really knows about or cares about over here, I don't think. But it's quite a quirky thing. I've never driven one. I'd like to drive one.
Yeah, we did a Typhoon here for a local customer. Just did like upgraded turbo, a little standalone ECU. That's a cool little truck. Again, it's not fast by any means, and you kind of
steer on you.
Oh yeah, it does. Like everything's horrible about it, basically, but it looks cool. The proportions in driving it is crazy because it's like miniature. It's literally like
tiny.
Oh, compared to like a modern day SUV. I mean, that was an SUV back in that day.
A mini S,
a mini SUV. But you sit in that. I mean, it's miniature, but it's fun. Like if you kind of like lean on the brake and get it into some boost. Like brake boost a little bit and get after it. It'll scoot a little bit, but it's cool. I actually want one. I want a Typhoon, like a daily. Cool. Yeah,
I think that would be good. I like you say that they fit in. They're an American car which actually fits in this country because they're not American proportions really. Whereas some of the full size stuff is just silly,
I can't even imagine bringing my Hummer over there.
Especially with that extension you put in it. What did you put, like 4 feet in the middle of it?
Just enough for another door.
We joke with Josh here that he's we picture Josh driving like a yellow, is it H2?
Right.
Hummer, lifted with all the chrome bolt-on goodies. So we just
they're stick-on. They're not bolt-on.
Yeah, stick-on. So
we utilize cars and the stereotypes that come along with them. Yeah, for profiling. That's why I was asking about the Camry stuff. Every single car we see, we can identify what that guy looks like or girl looks like, what their job is, or vice versa. If you see a guy in a bar, what he's wearing, you can be like, let's go out there into the parking lot. I guarantee you we can pick out what he's driving.
He's the Dodge Ram guy.
Yep. Yeah. Dodge Ram guy or the King's Ranch guy or the Ranger with a blown out back window. You just never.
We do that. We do a bit of that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
If you're around it for long enough, you start picking up on it subconsciously,
Completely. I'm sure that's what police officers do because they have to. They're always kind of looking for suspicious activity and stuff. They have to go with a hunch sometimes, don't they?
What do you think they pull over the most?
What in America?
Yeah.
Would it be pickups still? No, because pickups not Camrys.
No, not Camrys.
No, that's your perfect kind of like witness protection or like state line running, drag running car.
Camry's at least staying a mile an hour under the speed limit.
Oh yeah, Camry guy's not doing anything.
Yeah,
Do you know the answer to this? Because I feel like you.
Oh, would it be a Challenger or a Mustang? Or?
Ding ding, Challenger or Charger for sure.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it the hooligan? It's the hooligan activity though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think it was before COVID was the last report I saw. Whatever it was, like far and above the most pulled over vehicle. Yeah.
I do like them though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the new Challenger that's not even new anymore. I mean, how old is that shape? It's over a decade old, isn't it? I think
it is.
Yeah, it's probably like a 10 to 15 year range,
which is amazing. Amazing considering it's still so handsome. It's a good looking thing.
It's really neat when it came out, but like you just need to scale it. It's just big. It's like 15% too large, you know. And we're around the classic ones more often, so. Yeah, you always have a Cuda or a Challenger, a 70, 73, something like that in the shop. And it's such a gorgeous car. And I love the design, the look of the new Challenger. It's super cool in pictures. Yeah. And then you stand next to one and it's like this bulbous.
It's just bloated.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's your next project, guys. Surely you slit it down the middle and then you take 8 inches out of it. And then you shorten its wheelbase a little bit, and then before you know it, it's one of those cars which you have to park it next to another one for people to go, oh my god, you've completely remodeled it.
The problem is the motor. The motor then would be that 8 inches back through the hood, because I think they built the motor and then had to build a car around it. The reason it's so big is the damn motors. It's literally 45 something inches tall.
Is it really that big?
It's a big ass motor.
It's a monster. We struggle packaging that all day long. We're building custom chassis, working off body scans and CAD, and everybody wants a Hellcat or a Red-Eye motor in some sort of early Mopar.
In a Cuda.
Hammered. 4 inches off the ground and get it tucked underneath that flat.
Can I put 20s on the front of it?
Yeah.
Shit.
They want everything.
It's a struggle.
You get a motor that if you put the oil pan on the ground, the top of the motor is like 4.5 feet. But they want to keep that under the hood, and they want the hood to be 1.5 feet off the ground. Yeah. So it's that whole physics thing that doesn't work out.
How do we do this? Yeah. God, well, I don't envy you for that.
So when you started doing your own thing, obviously you had connections. You've been in the magazine, you've been in the industry and stuff. Did you have a kind of a plan? Did you start you had a little napkin drawing of these are the first 10 guys I'm going to reach out to. This is the stuff I'm going to do. Did you have your first season mapped out, or was it kind of you know what? I trust myself. I'm just going to wing it.
I did a bit. I was mostly winging. I think what I sort of wrote down on the napkin was the variety that I wanted to get, and the variety would keep cycling. So it would go, like barn find, brand new electric car review, interview with a significant person in the industry, one of my project car updates, round to visiting a collection or somebody that has a shed full of interesting stuff, and then a modern piston car, and then back round again. And so it's that's one of the hardest things is actually I made a rod for my own back by needing all of this content, the variety of content, because a lot of YouTubers will just stick to one thing and do it really well. Like, I'm just going to do barn finds, or I'm just going to do I don't know, hot rod builds or whatever it is. I don't know because my brain really wanted to bring it all in under one umbrella. I just thought let's try and do it. I guess I'd been in the industry long enough to have good contacts with manufacturers, so borrowing new cars and going on launches and getting those opportunities was there. I've become quite known for a bit of an authority on EVs, stemming from when I built an electric drag car, street legal drag car, and then as well as that, I suppose the whole, I've always enjoyed watching the kind of barn findy stuff on television and on YouTube. And I when we were kids, going back to things that influenced us to kind of get into this world, we used to go to, my parents never drove a particularly nice car, and it was always a bit worn out. So my dad, who was, was a DIY mechanic, he used to maintain his own cars, and he always liked to tinker. He's an engineer by trade. So he would, pre-internet, of course, this is, if he needed a part for the car, he'd go to the scrapyard, the salvage yard. So me and my brother Greg, we'd be going with them. So my mum would pack us off with a picnic and say, right, off you go, boys. You're going to the scrapyard for the day. And for us, that was like going to a theme park. Yeah, we're going to the scrapyard. And we'd get to climb around on all these piles of cars and look inside, open the door and look inside these cars. And I remember this would have been in the 80s, and there were cars from the 50s there. And just sitting on stacks and in hedges, and you're like, this is so fascinating. And I think that's one of the things that got me into old cars, and my brother as well. My brother's now, he almost exclusively works on pre-war cars, so he's vintage car. So it wasn't that my parents had fast, exotic, nice cars. They were just a bit old and obsolete. So we just used to find the bits for them, and I used to watch Dad mend them, and it just sort of absorbed it via osmosis. I mean, I'm not as good at working on cars as my brother or my dad, but as I've got older and a bit more confident, I've enjoyed the therapy of it, even if it's helping someone who's much better than me. But
so you talked about obviously kind of putting yourself into your master plan, and you needed to have, these 5 different types of content, and you wanted to kind of cycle through those. Have you been able to, as long as you've been doing this now, map which one of those hit more so than others? And does that change your mentality, or is it still like, that's fine, I'm still going to do this circle. I know that these two are going to hit, higher than these are, and that's just part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still a difficult science to fully fathom out. YouTube is a sort of big beast, isn't it? And
that was my next question.
I mean, it's a big old thing, and we're not a big team here. There's only me and one other person full time, and the videographers we use and editors are freelance. So if I had a bigger team, I would probably be conquering it quicker. But we've sort of done it organically, and the variety thing, I've noticed there's definitely, people are curious, aren't they? I think when you're into cars, there's this human curiosity of the whole barn find, hedge find, what is he going to dig out of this field? The curiosity of going along for the ride, even if the car is not really your kind of car, or it's a wreck and it's never going to be going back on the road. People live through your experience, and they're personally my favorite things to do, because you never really know what you're going to find. I don't do a recce first. I like to keep it, the one thing I hated about certain TV shows is the sort of engineered jeopardy and the acting. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that bullshit. It's like restoration shows, which are false. It's like, you don't need to pretend there's going to be a problem. There will be a problem. Yeah. Trust me.
There will be many problems.
Yeah, it'd be a lot
exactly. And I think just be honest with the viewer and say, look, it's not all, even the experienced builders are going to run into problems. It's just the way it is. So I think the things which probably are most popular are barn finds and a lot of the sort of latest electric stuff. And then things which you get a surprise on sometimes are, I guess, people's garages, what they call car caves. And we do bike caves as well, actually, but the car caves are good because we don't just do the kind of cliche 50 supercars all in a clinical workshop environment. You have everything. You have the person who's got a bit of a rundown farm barn.
I watched the one you did with Chris Harris. That's just like, he's got things like everywhere, just shoved off in this hole, and it was not what I expected.
No, it's not glamorous at all. It's not glamorous at all. Yeah, and so and those have been a surprise because they can be a bit. They were a bit of a what I'd call a kind of lost leader episodes, really, where you interview someone, quite slow format, chilled out interview, try and get the honesty of the person across. If they're a famous person, try and get them to chat in a way that they haven't been seen before. So as if the camera's not on and you don't have to impress anybody. and open up a bit. And those have been a real surprise. I've really enjoyed those, and I'm hoping to kind of do more of those. I'd like to travel. The next aim really is to travel the show a bit. So I haven't been to the States since 2019.
I was going to ask you, you're going to come do a tour through here, man. We need to set it up.
I would absolutely love to, because I know I've got a growing audience in the States, and because I have, with that sort of quirky car appreciation, liking American stuff, but also liking European and Japanese things as well. I suppose I want to put some more of that into the channel. So now we can travel a bit more, and the world's hopefully becoming a little bit normal again. That's one of my sort of aims for the Late Break Show, if we possibly can, and maybe to do some more shows, like live car show events. We did a couple in 2021. Yeah, 2021. And they went down pretty well, but they're stressful. Organizing your own car show, shit, is stressful.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine. We've toyed with the idea of doing some type of event. We did, for a couple of years, did a huge customer appreciation party out in Vegas the week of the SEMA show. And
wow.
I mean, that's
a lot.
There's no cars, but
yeah, no cars, and just trying to do something to kind of give back and have a big party and stuff. And that was an absolute monumental undertaking. And that, like he said, no cars, none of the insurance stuff, none of the other kind of crap. So we can't. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. Going into it, you talked about having your mindset, but the YouTube algorithm and that whole space, did you have any idea what you were doing at that point? Or was it just like, I'm going to put some content out, this is the place to put it, and if people like it, they like it?
That's what I'm wondering.
Go fishing and see what bites,
yeah.
right?
I think I suppose it depends what kind of a person you are. You some people are very organized and tactical, and other people are a bit more free form, and I'm probably a bit more free form, for better or for worse. But I had no idea how relentless it would be, and how demanding of your time and your energy. And I suppose when you're doing any business, when you're self-employed in any business, as many people watching this will know, and you'll know, is you have to put so much unpaid time and effort in. And the difference between YouTube and like doing television is TV, you do a set amount of episodes over a set amount of time, you deliver the series, and then the channel puts it out whenever the channel wants to put it out, and there's a lull, and then they might gear up to do it again, and I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months later. The thing is, YouTube, it's just a basking shark. It's just swimming through the ocean with its mouth fully wide, just inhaling digital content, and as quick as you put it out, they go, yeah, that was nice, when are you going to do the next one? And you're like, man, it's just me on my own. I can't keep up with this. I've got a family and I need to sleep, and I'm dying. So I think that was the thing I hadn't banked on being so difficult, actually. So I really admire the people that I probably dismissed a little bit, just going, they just put content out and then they're just running around, not putting a great deal of effort in. They're not real presenters. They're not real journalists. And actually, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. They're probably working harder than the more traditional media were.
At the same time,
sorry, carry on.
At the same, isn't that kind of like creating an endless all-you-can-eat buffet at the same time to go out there and just get as much as you can, keep you motivated to come up with something new?
Yeah, I think it keeps you on your toes. Like with any business, I suppose you're always looking at your sort of competitors and thinking, what do we do next? What's the next idea? But at the same time, I made a real vow when I started doing YouTube, because I had come from more of a TV background, and most people who would start following me initially and listening to what I was doing would expect a certain level of production value. So on the one hand, I could do a lot of vlogging and self-editing. I did a bit of it in 2020. I thought I probably should have a certain standard that I want to maintain. So if you watch this on a big 50-inch TV, it's acceptable. It's not like really, really ultra slick TV, but it's not bad considering the resources you've got. And that's the thing, people can be so critical on YouTube with the comments and things. People are quite cutting, but the good always outweighs the bad. And when you say to people, look, they'll go, oh, you didn't film that, or I wish you'd stayed a bit longer. You go, look, I'm paying for this out of my own money. For 2020, we didn't make any money. We were paying freelancers to film it, edit it, try and put it together properly, deliver 25, 30-minute episode like it was a TV show. That's what I've always said. It's on YouTube, but think of it as semi-TV quality each time. And going back to my old school roots of magazine craft, I'm always trying to do it like that. So yeah, hopefully the content will keep staying relevant. And I guess you're always building an archive, aren't you? I thought about that the other day. You're building this huge kind of back catalogue. So people, if they only find out about you today, you can go, well, you got 200 something videos to watch if you want. Just fill your boots, go and have a look.
Yeah, that is the neat thing about it. You've always got, even with the podcast stuff, as you generate some new viewers, listeners, it's all there.
Yeah.
It just exists forever. I mean, I was on YouTube today and I was looking for a video that we did, not long ago. And I came across like that Craftsman series, right? It was 9 years ago. And I just happened to click on it just for chits and giggles. And I'm looking, there's comments from, 9 years ago. It's just great. It lives forever on there. I mean, it's a wild deal. But it's
kind of cool.
It is cool. And the comments as well, like even back then, 9 years ago, I mean, there's still just as shitty comments as there are today. I mean, that's a funny thing with YouTube comments. And how does that resonate with you? And what have you figured out? What type of person posts a negative comment? Like what is going on in your life?
I'll go a step further than that after that question.
Yeah, what's going on in your life? What are you doing at that moment that you're like, fuck, what is that? This sucks. Like,
you're not a commenter at all on any type of social media. You're not going to put a comment on anything.
No commenter.
Yeah.
I think, well, if the last 3 years hasn't taught us anything, I think the first thing should be it's that the old kind of adage of just be kind and just treat people as you want to be treated yourself. And I think that's really important. But then, and maybe consider that someone out there is having a really tough time and they're probably taking it out on you. So don't think too deeply about it. And I don't like being criticized. I get quite defensive. So I've tried to get thicker skin. And sometimes one other YouTuber that I interviewed, he said, write your comment out, but don't send it. Wait for like 4 hois and then go into your drafts. And if you're still really fucking angry about it, then send it.
That's the same thing for drunk text.
It kind of is though, isn't it? And it is. And then do you know what? It works because it helps you to just simmer down and go, is it worth it? Pick your battles. Should I do this?
Well, I can disagree with their thoughts or this thing, but I can understand at least the guy saying, I watched this. I spent X amount of minutes taking it. I want to give my opinion, however wrong or right it might be, right? And then you get the guys that are just getting on there, just like at a car show, where the guy's like, oh man, I had one just like it, but it was black and it was a Mustang. I know that one's a Camaro, but mine was, actually it wasn't a Mustang, it was a truck. Here, let me show you a picture. That's just a doorway to talk, right? And so I get that. I don't think it's stupid, but the thing that I don't understand, right, is you watch an entire video. You don't have a comment really to say, but the one thing that you will do is hit that thumbs down. Oh, I'm just gonna passively aggressive dislike that.
So
I don't like it, or
you off.
I dislike that video
instead of just hitting next.
Right, instead of hitting next, and the thing like you can't make a bad comment, you can't make a positive comment. You just want YouTube, like that's it. You want YouTube to know that you disliked that video.
It's going and telling the teacher.
That's the one I don't get. I just don't get it.
I think it's also sometimes there's always context to the comment, and you feel like you've got to give them a bit more information. So like someone would like I drove a modified little kind of 70s rally car, resto mod, a couple of months ago, and the weather was the worst weather you could possibly have picked to film that car. But the owner is a really busy guy. He said, I can only do it on this day, so it's this day or nothing. And we made it happen. And even with the pissing rain, I said, are you sure you want me to take this car out? It was quite a immaculate thing. And he said, yeah, I trust you. It'd be okay. And I was scared shitless because it was quite a vicious car. And I wasn't sure whether we were going to get a good film out of it. In the back of my head, I was thinking, this is going to be average at best. We've just got to get it done. And then I was really pleased with how it turned out, but someone in the comments went, you kind of drove it like a bit of a pussy. And I'm like, well, there's two things to bear in mind here. One, it's not my car and it's not a manufacturer's car. So if I binned it and destroyed it, I don't just phone up Ford and go, sorry about that. Can you just send me another one? It's not like a production car. And two, so you've got to have a bit of respect. Like, this is a guy's car that's just had him build for 3 years. It's cost him an awful lot of money and he's trusting me with it. And then secondly, it's like, you don't understand the weather conditions and the constraints. We've got one winter's day to film this. It's dawn at 8:30. It's dead and black by 4 p.m. Your window of filming is so small, and it's quite stressy. So we just got to get it done. And we're not Top Gear. We're not the Grand Tour. We're not. I'm not Jay Leno. I can't just go, let's film this for 3 days and just pick the best bits. I can't do it. So. Sometimes you feel like you've got to qualify and go, listen, please understand, if this was my car and I would drive it like a bastard, but it's not my car, and I have to have a bit of sympathy for people who trust me.
What we found over here in the US, and I'm sure it would probably work. The translation would work over. We just say shut the fuck up. That's the best way, and it seems like it's usually it handles.
I mean, it's something we've discussed internally in depth.
Right.
And it applies to a lot.
It seems like a joke, but if you actually start digging into it, that is the answer to
most things,
to 99.9% of the world's problems. And every interaction you have with somebody, and that it goes internally too. It applies to yourself. If you would just shut the fuck up.
I wish you would.
Then I guarantee, like, most problems are solved. You don't have to get on there and
I like that.
You watched the entire video. You were entertained, and you're telling me that you had to say, "Hey, you didn't entertain me as hard as I wanted you to entertain me. So you didn't drive that car as hard."
So what's the best thing you can do at that
point? Just shut the fuck up. Like, that's the best thing.
100%, man.
I mean, no offense.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? In the old days, when it was forums, you go in forums, and it could get a bit toxic,
like fights.
I went through a phase of just sending them a message publicly with my phone number on. I went, listen, you're obviously really fucking cross with me. Should we just be sensible and just phone me? Just phone me and we'll chat about it. The phone never fucking rang.
Right.
Ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
They don't want that.
They got my number. They still got it. I haven't changed it. But they're not going to phone you, because they're never going to phone you and go, oh, yeah, by the way, Josh, I think you're a bit of a tosser. And I think that what you do is really shit. You're not actually as talented as you think you are. They're never going to say that.
Right.
They're going to say it to you.
I think it's funny. The comments, though, are funny on YouTube stuff. You see, like, mostly on our, like, review videos or car videos and stuff where we're driving and all that. Like, it's usually split. Like, you'll have half the people complaining about something that's pretty arbitrary, and then the other half of people being like, no, I like this video specifically because you didn't wear seatbelts. And the guy's like, can't believe you didn't wear any seatbelts.
Yeah, this guy's a badass. Like, he doesn't give a fuck.
And it's like, I mean.
Dude, I will say, though, I mean, we are all fortunate. I think I've said this once before. We talked about this kind of similar subject. We're fortunate we're not in the marine industry, because the boat guys,
they shred everything.
Really?
The boat guys on, like, the YouTube comments, the forum comments, Facebook comments, it is like, I mean, they'll insult your children, you know? Like,
really?
It is brutal.
I didn't know
that.
Brutal.
Boat guys. What's so bad with boat guys?
I don't know.
Don't get into boat reviews.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, stay away from the boat reviews. I don't know. But, like, I watch the Wavy Boats. There's a YouTube page called Wavy Boats. So it's great. It's got a huge following. Yeah. And it's all these boats going through this one haulover cut in Miami. So it's a rough inlet, you know, and it's just everybody basically making fun or correcting whoever the captain or owner or boating skills of that guy.
Oh, so everyone's like an online mariner now.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
Right. So you see some guy like come through in like a 12-foot Boston whaler, and it's like 17-foot waves, and they're like, "Yeah, you ever heard of the word trim before?" You know, fucking moron. You know, like, Yeah, dude, the boat's smaller than the wave. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
dude's mid-30s.
Yeah.
He's proud to have his first boat. He's got his 2 kids on it, and this dude's shredding him on his...
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very weird, isn't it?
That's a tough crowd.
I think we need to start doing
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, carry on.
I think we need to do a best of comments because we get some really good ones, like hilarious stuff that we'll bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
And then like do a worst of as well, maybe just to
We could just
shred those
address them.
guys. Yeah.
We need to do a special podcast episode of addressing YouTube comments. And we'll call out who says it, what they said, and then we'll go
our rebuttal.
Yeah, and our rebuttal.
Why don't you have a troll party? You know, like you do like an open workshop, cars and coffee thing, but only invite the people who have sent you the most vicious comments and get them all together. Have a little party.
That's a good idea.
And they'll suddenly think about what they've done, and they'll all be around you going, I was terrible. I'm really sorry. I really like you. This is great. Thanks for inviting me to the party.
I'd rather do it online. I don't know if I want to meet any of them in person.
Yeah, I was
What were you going to ask us?
I was going to ask you about like what are the sort of, to you, what are the kind of up and coming classic American cars that you think maybe haven't been put in the limelight yet and deserve to be, or you can just see the start of these things coming, maybe the next kind of good resto mod or pro touring type thing, or I'm always interested in the sort of lesser known. Everyone knows about the 69 Chargers and the 70 Challengers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what about the lesser spotted stuff?
Us, it's probably always been like generational, and it's just what was cool when you were in high school. So that's always like a constant moving target. It seems like now it's just getting into the Fox body Mustangs and the IROC Camaros and the Grand Nationals. I don't think they're there yet, but that's, I think, what's coming next.
Yeah, less on a actual body style or a couple body styles. I mean, the trend wise, we've talked about it a couple of times. I'm still blown away at how fast and how popular it's gotten, and I don't think we're even tipping the iceberg. The vintage four-wheel drive shit is going fucking nuts.
It is.
I think it's going to be the Hemi Cuda days.
It's like a gold rush right now.
Yeah, the vintage four-wheel drive, GM, Ford, Dodge. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but classic, 60s, 70s four-wheel drive trucks. Is absolutely. It came out of nowhere. Of how fast
it came out. It came out of nowhere, but it's a lot like what Phil just said. It's generational. So that's when we were all kids. That stuff was so bad.
That was the most badass.
Everyone's dad had a square body truck.
Right. We weren't messing with muscle car. I mean, car guys were, but like that's what was cool. So I mean, that's
it was affordable back then. Is that what it was? It
was certainly affordable back then. But
it's also still what the badass guy that had a little bit of money had. Like he had that black Cheyenne four-wheel drive pickup that wasn't a. The ones we looked at that were badass weren't beaters. It's like, holy shit, that thing's fucking awesome. Right.
And it like if you could put 2 Rancho shocks on it with a color-coded boot, fuck it. You put 6 of them on it. Put a bunch of shocks on it. So we were in that we grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. So that was like,
Thornbirds.
Yeah, Bigfoot, monster trucks were in their heyday. There was a lot of very rad stuff. So I think that's coming about right now. But I think in addition to that, it's the lack of a trend that's trending right now.
You can do anything.
It's that everybody's followed I've had a Camaro, I've had a Charger, I've had everything that is trendy. I went through the hot rod phase and had a Highboy 32. And now I'm like, well, I want to do something that nobody else has. So that's what I think guys are exploring, like Barry finding the Catalina 2+2. Nobody had really done
that's
one.
It's a great looking car. I think it's a great looking car.
And you've got, it's fun for us because you've got more and more people looking at doing. I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge because you certainly don't have all like the
you
parts.
Can't buy the off the shelf
right?
stuff.
You don't have all the parts that transfer the stuff that you've engineered.
But even more so than just cars and models, stylistically wise, it's a Wild West. I mean, it's if you execute it to the highest level.
Yeah,
the best of at least the best that you can do. You can go really any genre right now. If you wanted to build a '69 Camaro, with an LS and deck it out and make it look like it could have been a Copo. If you want to make it Copo style and not full-blown Pro Touring, it's cool. If you want to go full-blown Pro Touring with carbon fiber everywhere and, the baddest forged line wheels, you can do that. If you want to do, a vintage four-wheel drive and make it Napco style, you can do that. If you want to do fucking Pro Street right now, and make, there's nothing that's people are going to be like, what? You did that? Yeah. If you do it, and it's even cooler to step outside the box. I mean, the whole OBS truck that we just did, embracing that 80s style was, everybody fucking loved that.
It's like,
that's hot right now.
It is. It's a cool spot to be in the industry right now because it's like everybody's just hanging out. It used to be like you've got the rat rod dudes. You're like, don't fucking go near those guys. This is like, you don't want to mess with those guys.
That's right. It was tribal,
right?
Very tribal.
Yeah, and now it's you've got like Alan Johnson was digging on the OBS that we did. I mean, Alan Johnson builds the most high end, Riddler winning, crazy over the top stuff, but he's down with that. Everybody seems to be embracing a little bit of everything, which is cool.
The egos are dying out, which is great. Cool is cool. No matter the style and styles. I mean, you fast forward. I mean, you rewind back 12, 15 years ago.
Well, you're just, dude, honestly, you're just rambling right now. What you said cool is cool. That's all you needed. That's it. That's
absolutely.
That says it all.
Cool
right? Cool is cool.
We wouldn't have really stepped too far outside the Pro Touring box. Nobody really did. You would tiptoe over here. Think about the Nova and how many people crushed the fucking front grille because it didn't fit their narrative or anything else like that. Those times have changed. Sure. Now it's pushing the envelope and trying something new. And if it, again, cool is cool.
Yeah. Well, let's flip-flop this.
Probably my most popular project car is my Austin Allegro Civic Type R. So that's basically Britain's most hated car of all time, which I always had a bit of an affinity to because my grandparents had one, my auntie had a shit brown one, and when I was growing up, it was one of those cars which everyone loved to hate.
We're googling this. What was it again?
We've got to look this up.
An Austin Allegro, Allegro.
Okay,
it's a lot of all aggro, as people used to call them, or
like a Chevette almost.
Yeah, I mean, the Chevette was a better car in terms of it has rally pedigree and stuff like that. But this was our AMC Pacer. So if you think about the attitude to the AMC Pacer, now they're sort of ironically cool, aren't they? They're fetching money.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's like something that would be in a children's book, like when they're illustrating a car. It's a car.
Yeah.
The car goes to the doctor,
and the car goes to the city.
So it was one of those cars where if one of your grandparents died and you were 17 and you just needed a car, even then you wouldn't want to drive it. It was given to you for free and it had, it was road legal and in good condition. You'd still go, I'll probably stick to my bicycle. That's right.
So what are you doing with this thing?
Yeah, because I'm going to go back to Josh's comment about cool is cool. And I don't know this fits.
Well, I always said I want to build a sleeper Allegro. I love the whole sleeper thing. Okay. I've always thought an Allegro needs to prove some people wrong. A couple of cars I've owned over the years where people have gone, you'll never make that cool, and I've just managed to do it, I think. And in this case, I started building it and going, well, it needs to be quick, but it's an original paint car, 2 elderly lady owners, so it's got the elderly lady dents in it and parking issues. And we in the end, we've gone for a Civic Type R K20 Honda engine, but we're turbocharging it. And we're going for fully independent coilover suspension, and the interior, I've trimmed the interior with the same fabric that you get on the London Underground train. So like the New York Metro or the LA Metro train.
It's so super high end then, right?
Yeah, really high end. Yeah. So it's like an irony. The whole thing is laden with irony, but it harks back to my childhood growing up with them and everyone taking the piss and me going, I'm going to do it. But if we're going to do it, I want it to actually handle, and I want it to go, and I want it to be fun. And then when we go to a show in it, people will go, "Oh my God, it's the Allegro! It's the Allegro Type R." So
dude, this thing's going to be
I
pretty
could get
badass.
down with it. I mean, I like that concept. I love taking weird stuff and doing sleeper builds. And anytime you start a project and the tire's sticking 50% of the way outboard of the body
with mini lights.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, the guy that's fabricating it, I've influenced him to buy a shit old car as well. So that beige one is called an Austin Princess, which I would say is even worse looking than an Allegro. And that was like an executive mid-70s British car. And that he's put a Jag. That is basically the chassis and the subframes and the engine and transmission from a Jag S-Type, so a modern Jag S-Type, which is 3-litre V6, 6-speed manual, fully independent rear-end cradle, and he's putting twin turbos on that. So that's going to be a hellraiser, that car.
The Allegro looks way cooler.
Yeah, I think the Allegro's, there's
the upholstery.
Dude, I love it.
It's everything that was wrong with the 70s, but kind of brought into the 21st century.
We have a similar project that's kind of like hanging right now that we may or may not do. We have a customer we're building an AMC AMX for. It's a super rad car, and we're getting close to wrapping up the fabrication on it. But he's got it's like a 71 Hornet. So
I know a Hornet.
Yeah, Hornet. It's a very similar car. It's like lack of all style. Right. So what do you do with it? Make it like a wild, rad sleeper, like a street fighter kind of deal. So we're trying
that's going to be great though.
Yeah.
Because it takes customers like that with money and guts to go, let's just go with it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You've got to rock it with conviction. It's a bit like people that dress really strangely and they go out on the street and they rock it with conviction. They don't give a shit what you think. And they go with it.
Yeah.
And if you go with it, long enough, people will go, do you know what? Yeah. Okay. I mean,
that's how trends start.
Yeah. Speaking from a guy who was driving a 70s Cadillac around London, staring people in the eye, doing it.
I promise you, I'm not creepy. I promise. So I love the whole left field thing. I think it's great. And I had an AMC Pacer weirdly in the UK.
The Pacer's cool. And I dig the Pacer, the Mirth Mobile.
I wish I hadn't sold it. I would like a Gremlin, but I think the Gremlins have been done quite a lot. I've always thought a nice pro street Gremlin would be good.
The Gremlin, it's like it used to be kind of like ironic and it was weird, but like everybody's done something with them. Like we always talked about doing something. There was
a Grim Puppy.
Yeah, the old Grim Puppy. There was one where it was down the street from here, wasn't it? In the back, some guy's like backyard.
Yeah.
We used to go to lunch. And you'd see it, and I think it had side pipes and everything on it. It was like sitting just behind like a chain link fence. We were always talking about it.
Gremlin.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the Yugo.
The Yugo?
Bring the Yugo back.
Oh, the Yugo would be a good shout for a sleeper. That'd be a great one. You could piss off Corvette guy with that, couldn't you?
I feel like that's an easy, like...
The Hayabusa motor.
Yeah, that's what... If you go on YouTube right now, I guarantee you somebody's Hayabusa swapped one.
I just want to do a high-end SVX, Subaru SVX. But
it's already high-end.
No, I want to make it with power and stuff like that. I think that it already looks like $1 million. Make it
Pastrana had the best quote on that in the video. It's like the future, but in the past.
It is. It's the 80s future. That's what it is, isn't it?
A window that rolls up into a window. That's the car.
Window inside a window. Yeah.
Crazy.
I'll ask a couple more questions. I know we're getting a little late. So you've done a lot on your show with EVs and new innovations. What are some technologies that you are most interested in, I guess, coming more mainstream or starting to implement in modern cars? And don't give me the standard, ADAS systems or any of that kind of stuff. What is something that really is exciting to you?
Well, I mean, I think the problem that we have at the moment is on the one hand, you got, ultra efficient EV drivetrains and really good battery tech. So, but, obviously batteries are becoming more potent, smaller, easier to package, but they're sort of putting them in the wrong cars because a lot of them are SUVs and cars that are just really, when you really sit there and analyze what a family needs to go around in, it's probably not a car that's that shape. So I'm wanting to see that advancement of the EV drivetrains in smaller but premium small cars. So cars that, just because they're smaller doesn't mean that they're less comfortable or luxurious. And of course, with a smaller car, you almost have to be a bit more creative because it's constraining you. I don't know if you've seen the Honda E, but like the Honda E was one of those cars where it was Honda when Honda does it right and just tells everybody to fuck off and just go, I'm going to do it my way. Watch this. And it'll probably not be a sales success, but we're going to do it anyway. Let's just do this. And they do it like once every decade, Honda do. They just go wild. Like the crazy Christmas party in the office. And they go, yeah, watch this. Watch this.
Right to the HR department. You know, you got Ned over there.
That's right. Yeah, watch this tomorrow. I'm going to... Yeah, so I think I'm really interested in seeing the smaller, more fit for purpose kind of EVs with luxurious interiors, and the whole recycled and different types of textures and materials internally are so exciting, because I'm just bored of black leather, grey leather. I mean, leather's okay, but I think I've just seen it, and like it's not premium anymore because you can buy quite a cheap car and you get leather as standard. So then therefore it sort of resets your idea of what's luxurious and what's premium. So I love it when people are coming up with these, you know, the recycled fibers of bottles and, you know, reclaimed plastics, and like the BMW i3, the bloody car's nearly a decade old, and yet the interior still looks like something out of a spaceship. It's so interesting. So that stuff really, that re-engineered interior space that electric cars allow you to do, you know, because of the packaging of an EV, you don't need a prop shaft like you used to, and you don't need an exhaust in that way. And it gets rid of all that and allows designers to hopefully be a bit more bold with the proportions of a car, and so that we can be a bit out there. I mean, some of the Koreans, Kia and Hyundai, they're just going wild at the moment. They're self-medicating. But the great thing about that is that it's a mad-looking car, but underlined with practicality. So it's not just silly for the sake of being silly. It's a genuinely useful car.
I've got a theory or a potential direction that I'd like the auto industry to go. I'm going to run it by you. This is the first time it's ever been talked about. This is somebody I can tell by his accent that this is somebody we can trust. Right? We can trust to run this by.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah. So. All right. So everything with, you know, obviously we've talked about EV ad nauseum, you know, everybody's got their own opinion back and forth. But at the same time, all they're doing is just yet another thing over the last 30 years. It's basically just trying to divide everybody. So you've got to have something that's so polarizing that you're like, yay, EV sucks, right?
Yeah.
And it's just another issue and another thing to bring up to separate people. I think, one, we need less cars. Less types of cars, less models, less this. Now, everybody get together. Let's embrace the EV thing. Also, let's embrace big motherfucking horsepower, right?
Okay.
So, big LS, big Hemi, 800 to 1,000 horsepower, right? Gas burner.
Sure.
Right? With a 3 to 4 gallon gas tank. And you know, a decent range. You don't have to have a lot of horsepower in your EV. You know, it has 350 to 400 mile range, standard GM, Tesla, whatever it is, you know, EV power plant, right? So if you want an EV, great, no problem. But guess what? It comes with 850 horsepower Hemi. And I promise you, when nobody else is looking, it's got 3-4 gallons of gas in it. You're gonna get on that thing. You're like, that's pretty fucking fun. Right?
I quite like that idea. You're sort of rationing the fuel. So you're saying you can use the V8 at some point.
Exactly.
But choose your weapon carefully.
Everybody gets what they want, because at the same time, we're all the same way.
You're just going to put a bigger gas tank in it.
No, well, I'm going to get on it a few times, but at the same time, when I'm just driving the back roads and stuff like that, and it's just commuting to work and all that stuff, I don't have to listen to the big V8. And if I'm just going to drive 6 miles and stuff like that to get to work early in the morning, that's fine. I'll let the the electric part take it, and when I leave the parking lot, I'll probably get sideways. Everybody is happy. Everybody sees both sides of the thing.
You got to save it up like your nitros and Ivan Stewart's off-road game.
Yeah, you use 3 nitros. And
Dude, that's the problem. That's the problem with you, man. I mean, that's why you are a bitch, because I'm fucking going all the way home. I'm putting a fuel tank in the back of that thing, and that Hemi is cackling all the way home.
Well, yeah, dude,
I'm just on it.
Say the inside things outside.
Okay.
There's all kinds of stuff we can do on the aftermarket.
I don't care
after the thing.
If I got to run to Target to get something, I don't care. I'll walk in there just reeking of 110
all the time, no matter what.
I'm good with that.
110, 110. I think the other thing about the way the industry's going, which I hope is going to happen more, and I think should happen more, is I feel like there should be the renaissance of the coach builder.
Sure.
So, back pre-war, of course, you'd order a chassis and then you'd go to your whichever body manufacturer and you'd pick a body for whatever purpose you wanted. They'd tailor it for you like a suit. Why don't we go back to that? We could do that with the electric car era, where if Tesla stops building full cars and just said, we're a chassis provider, and you can buy a rolling Tesla chassis, skateboard chassis, you can tweak it, certain damping and stuff like that, and maybe rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, whatever. And then you'd come to a coach builder who'd go, right, what do you want?
Allegro. I want an Allegro. I want an Allegro.
That's it.
You could go, well, I want a 70s Jeep Wagoneer, but I want the body panels to be made of composite, and I want the wooden sides to be 3D printed, and I want the interior to be made of, I don't know, my old grandfather's favorite chair that is so dear to me. It's all a load of random stuff, but suddenly you'll have this complete kind of interesting Frankenstein of a car that you can use every day, perhaps as a family car. And it rewrites all the rule books. Like you said, it doesn't divide. It will divide people, but people will go, oh, that's quite cool.
Right. I mean, that's awesome for people like you, and I think people like us that have very eclectic taste in the automotive genre. Like, you come up with some
Camry guy,
but no, forget about the Camry guy. He'd be fine. He's
guy.
just make it look like a car, like an RC car body that you just put on the top. But like kids today, I mean, imagine what the high school parking lot would look like. There'd be these giant, fuzzy, pink, furry, looking crazy unicorns that
anime.
They're shooting rainbows out of the top of them and doing
it could be like
it would be a video game. But driving to work would be like a video game, wouldn't it?
Right.
But it would be like some of the Porsche exclusive manufacturer stuff where
that's a good example.
Green wheels with yellow brakes and some pink piping and green and blue plaid on the interior.
I think those guys are just doing it to fuck with Porsche.
You think so?
I don't think they really like those things.
I wonder if they'll do this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've seen some terribly spec'd Rolls Royces, and you just think, wow, that was like $400,000, and it looks like somebody's painted it with nail varnish, and it's a terrible idea. But I mean, it takes balls to do it, I suppose. But yeah, I think the future's interesting. I think all that we've just talked about is that the future's bright because there's less boundaries and there's more creativity and the dawning of all this technology that we have, like the 3D printing, the laser cutting, all of that stuff is just so amazing for the old car world. And maybe young people, like I think about my son who's 11, he's not an old car purist. He likes the Dodge. He likes the smell of it, actually. He said, I'm a bit worried about him. He goes, I mean, I don't use it every day.
Yeah, don't let him sniff it too much.
No, he goes, Daddy, I like the smell of the Dodge, but he said, but not for more than about an hour. After about an hour, it smells a bit too much. So I'm like, it's probably a bit too noxious.
That's enough.
But it's an hour. That's okay. Let's just do an hour.
It's cool.
Well, we're gonna go to a few standard questions. Oh, you got some?
Yeah. Before we jump into the standard questions, I'm just curious because you're a guy who's obviously been in tons of vehicles. You review all kinds of vehicles. You're around a lot of really interesting stuff. Very difficult question, I'm sure, to answer. But what's the most badass thing that you've driven, or something that's a huge standout? Something that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, or
for any reason, or
whether it's
drivability or
anything. Yeah, okay. Just the standout.
Wow. Well, I always, when I get put on the spot, I always forget some of the stuff I've driven. It's bad, isn't it? There's been a few highlights. I've been in two at the time of this was two of the world's quickest street legal cars. So they're street legal drag cars that were at the time were 7 second cars, and I've done and as a passenger on the street and then on the strip and those. And that was mind blowing because I'd never experienced power like that. And that was really good. And I've driven a C-type Jag, an ex-works C-type Jag on the Mille Miglia race event, the newer version, with the owner who was basically, he was getting cross with me because I wasn't driving it hard enough. And I was just scared because he's like, and he casually mentions it's worth £2 million. And I said, well, that's the reason why I'm not nailing this car around, because I don't really fancy being the guy that goes backwards through someone's front garden and in the £2 million car. So, but it felt really good because we were driving it flat out a lot of the time with just white shirts on, sunny Italian countryside, but chasing Alfa Romeos, Gullwing Merc with some mad Germans in trying to overtake us on blind corners. It was like being in a 1950s film car chase. It was so
That'd
surreal.
Be awesome.
And there I am in the passenger seat, and I don't even really fit in the passenger seat because it's so small. There's no, I don't think there was a windscreen, maybe a tiny fly shield with a map that I couldn't really read very well. A big bucket of strawberries that we went through.
Gotta have them, man. Gotta have them.
We went through a village, and these we were slowing down for like a checkpoint, and these women would give you a bucket of strawberries. I was like, that's really kind of you, thanks, but I've got nowhere to fucking put it. So I had a bucket of strawberries. I've got my map, and the driver's going, where to next? I'm going, well, hang on a minute. I've got nowhere to put them because there's no room in a C-type Jag.
Have a strawberry. Let me figure it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I ate loads of strawberries. So that was really good.
That's cool.
And fairly recently, I've driven the Rimac Nevera, which is like a Croatian hypercar.
I'm familiar.
Electric, and it was so fast. I mean, I've driven quite a lot of pretty fast cars, so I know what speed feels like to a point. But that car rewrote that for me. It just tore me a new one. It was incredibly fast, and yet not a race car. It still had luxuries, and we drove it on the road afterwards, and it just felt fine. But honestly, it just felt like an airplane with no wings. I thought it was going to take off. It was so strange.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I'm fortunate enough to have been in so many odd cars. I mean, the sort of cars that you might be into. And there's a guy in Britain who's got an old 70s Rover with a 27-litre Rolls Merlin engine in it, so a Spitfire engine, and it's street legal, and it's bonkers. He drives it to France. He drives it to France all the time. But the engine's so massive because that massive V12. You sit at least halfway back in the car. You sit. The bulkhead is so huge, and he built it all himself in a shed. He's quite an eccentric guy. So that was really memorable.
That's
I enjoyed
wild.
that a lot.
And out of everything,
Yeah.
so I actually came across your YouTube page organically, and I stumbled across you did an episode with Gordon Murray.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty mind blowing. I mean that supercar that he's got is unbelievable. What was that deal like? And did you get a chance to like pilot it? Ride in it?
I've not yet. I've been promised to go in it, and I'm holding him to it. Gordon's great because the thing about Gordon is, I suppose, a bit like Jay Leno as well. It's that he's really into cars. There's no egos. It doesn't matter if the car's a small city car or a low volume mad supercar. If the story's interesting or it's been engineered well, he's into it. And going to Gordon's place I felt intimidating at first, but he's quite a softly spoken guy, and you can tell that he's interested. So when you start to engage him, his eyes start lighting up, and he's got a PA, and his PA's often saying, look, you've got 10 minutes with Gordon, and he's got to go. He's busy. He's got stuff to do.
Sure.
And then, and you knew you were onto a good thing when you were already 20 minutes over what they said you were allowed to film, but the camera's still rolling and nobody's shouting yet. So just keep going. And I remember I first met Gordon because we were both kind of presenting at a classic car show on stage, and for some reason, he overheard me talking about a Honda S800. to a friend, it's just saying, "Oh, what an amazing little car that was for its time." And he went, "Have you got a Honda S800?" At the time, I didn't. I have owned one since, but he said, I've got one of those. He said, it's still one of the greatest cars I've ever owned. He said, I can't fit in it, so I had to have the seat re-engineered. But he said, it's a wonderful car. And then reeled off all these facts about the car straight away. He's quite Rain Man with his knowledge of measurements and stuff. He's the sort of guy that knows the wheelbase of every car that's ever been made in millimeters. So he was just a very, very pleasant bloke. And it took us about a year and a half to organise that feature, to walk round with him in his shed and then get the feature of driving his a Ford Escort Resto mod. And that car's really special. Because again, it's like Gordon Murray, the guy that invented the hypercar, still craves an old 70s, late 60s Ford Escort, the car that was on every street in the UK in the 70s. It's not a special car, but it's special. It has a memory for him, and he wanted to build one his way. So that was what I loved about it. And he's one of the. That was a really cool day. It was a really cool day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
enjoyed
that.
In the UK, what's the difference between a shed and a garage?
That's a really good question. A shed and a garage. I think usually a shed is not quite big enough for a car. It's a sort of thing that you put gardening stuff in and motorbikes go in sheds.
All right. I wanted to make sure it's the same shit here. And can you say shed? Shed, we don't put cars in. Shed's the things we put all the little small things that we don't want in the garage.
You just throw
and I think the problem
is
is nowadays you can buy sheds in so many different sizes. And and the first garage I ever built was actually a shed. Thinking about it, I just spec'd up a big shed.
Okay,
and so it did just look like a big garden shed. But I mean, as long as it keeps the car dry and
call it whatever you want.
You call it what you can call it a shit face if you want to. I don't care, as long as it keeps my tools dry. But I mean, they're important. Garaging old cars over here is so important. I don't know about the climate exactly where you are, but
it's rough.
We're pretty similar to where you are.
Yeah, you can't just
gets.
Yeah, you can't leave a car out all year round if it's a classic. It'll deteriorate quite quickly. But
we'll get into some of our standard questions so we can wrap this thing up. I know it's a little later there on your side of the pond.
Don't you worry, I'm enjoying it.
Oh, awesome. We'll keep rolling then. Excluding Bullet, because you've already kind of tipped your hand to that being your first major car chase scene. So we're going to take Bullet out of it, right? Generally, we ask guests, what's your favorite car movie and a reason why? So we're going to take Bullet out of it, right? So you can Bullets out of it. And you can say favorite car movie or second favorite car chase.
Oh, okay. Well, the favorite car movies, Ronin's got to be up there.
I knew it was going to be Ronin.
Well, it really unpredictable, and I've got to try and be a bit more interesting. I think the thing about Ronin is it was just when it came out, I watched it when it was new, and I just remember being blown away.
They don't know Ronin.
I've never seen it.
So this is the reason I know Ronin and why I was going to go with it, because way back in the day, I had a side job. I was selling home audio at a place called Hi-Fi Buys. Right, this was about the time when Ronin had just kind of came out. That was the thing. We utilized that.
What you wrote on the back of the trailer?
That was what we utilized to sell some of our high-end home audio, right? Okay. So the Ronin Chase was the go-to for, Pioneer and Klipsch and some of the speakers and stuff like that. That was the go-to
surround sound.
Oh,
that was wow.
That was,
I would love. That's a great idea. It was
awesome to shoot. That was right when Pioneer first came out with the very first plasma TV. It was like a 27-inch. It was, I remember, $19,000 for this little plasma TV.
$19,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
For the plasma TV.
So the movie's got great sound effects.
Oh, it's got a great audio. It's an M5.
Yeah.
It's an M5 BMW, and I mean they're running through.
Is it better than the opening scene of Days of Thunder? As far as audio,
trick question.
Well, you watch it on you watch it on a Laserdisc?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Well, if you're watching it on a Laserdisc, then
Joe, I was only talking to someone about Days of Thunder the other day, because I said to them, unpopular opinion, I preferred Days of Thunder to Top Gun. I thought it was a cooler film.
Yeah.
You're correct on that. You're correct.
And
I watched it this weekend.
It just resonated with me a bit more. I was 11 when that came out.
Days of Thunder on a high-end home audio.
Yeah, on Laserdisc.
Yeah, it's
on Laserdisc.
Interesting enough, I've never seen the original Top Gun. Never seen it.
The original?
Yeah, I just never cared to watch it.
So it's because you're a Days of Thunder guy.
Yeah, I was a Days of Thunder guy. I did go and see the sequel in the movie theater, which was awesome.
How have you never seen it?
I've just never seen it.
Now, I mean,
I may have picked up like bits and I've never sat down
Days
and
of
watched
Thunder's
it.
a better movie, but
beginning
Top
to
Gun
end.
is a fucking phenomenal movie.
I don't have
still.
anything against. I don't have anything against
yeah,
it. Just because the sequel was really good.
Volleyball beach scene.
really
You don't even know the reference to volleyball beach scene. Then you've got to see Tom Cruise playing volleyball with his shirt off.
I've seen Side Out.
wow.
I've seen the movie Side Out. I didn't need to watch that.
I think that going back to Ronin, I think the cool thing about Ronin is no CGI. The only time perhaps in film history where you'll see Robert De Niro in an average French Peugeot saloon car looking like he's going to shit himself, looking terrified.
Well, funny
for his life.
enough to me, Ronin, the movie itself, what was so intriguing way back then was that was the first kind of mainstream movie that they even had anything about like a modification to a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? That was like a thing, you know? And the fact that they're like, you know, because I'm into cars at that point, and they're like, oh, and this is, like you said, Robert De Niro, this is big screen, this is as big of a movie as it gets. And they're talking about modifications to this. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that. I know what you're doing.
It's the Audi S8, isn't it? The line about the Audi S8.
Exactly.
So they need to steal an Audi S8 as a sort of getaway car. And the driver says, I need one of these S8. I need traction. I need power, but I need to make some changes or something. And he references, I'm going to need nitrous, double shot or something like that. Yeah. And you go, what, an S8? I mean, that would be like a rocket.
Yeah.
At the time.
What year era is this?
This would be late 90s? 99 or 2000, 2001.
I should look it up, shouldn't we? We need to be professional.
Yeah, let's look it up.
I'm going to go.
If we were super professional,
I'm going 2000. I'm going 2000.
I'm going to go 96. That's just.
Oh, that's way too early.
It probably is. Hang on. 98.
Yeah.
Oh,
98.
Right in the middle.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Wow. I wish I'd not seen it yet, because then I'd get that experience of seeing it for the first time, because the car chase is so authentic. And it's the difference of the cars. You've got the Audi Quattro, the S8 versus the BMW M5 versus the Mercedes 6.9 SL, SEL, with what's the guy? Does he have a bazooka out? He's got some mad gun out the sunroof of that car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They do a very, like, you're always...
I'm excited to watch this.
You always geek out when we're talking about doing our video on the tactile sound things, whatever, so you can hear you know, the shifter sounds. It's not just all motor, right? It's motor, tires, brakes, shifter, pedals, even hands on the steering wheel. There's a lot of good sound
isn't
effects.
Yeah. It's really, really good. So that's definitely up there.
I gotta watch it, man. What was that recent movie? And I feel like we talked about this before with the Testarossa, the red Testarossa. It just came out recently, and the dude like spun it around backwards and ripped the door off.
Oh,
and and then they picked it up onto a crane. It was some mainstream movie.
I don't remember this.
It can't have been a real one. Was it a Toyota MR2 or something?
Yeah, no, I mean it looked very authentic.
Did it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Is it like the James Bond DB5? You know, the one that gets shot at and smashed up and.
Yeah, kind of like red. It was a red tester. Click on the picture on the left. What?
Infinite.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
Infinite. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's the film I need to see. So you need to see Ronin. I need to see Infinite.
Great car chase scene. I mean, it's one of those where it's like it goes a little over the top.
So Jeremy's a huge. If you're going to talk about pinnacle car, top of the list, it's a Testarossa. Yeah. It's a Testarossa for Jeremy. That's his.
Well, good taste, Jeremy. The old flat 12. What an engine. A really good friend of mine's just come back from going skiing in France in his Testarossa, so he uses it. So winter here, right? Early January. Put it on winter tires 10 days ago. Skis on the roof. It's a grey one, gunmetal grey. It's a really good spec. And he drove it with his wife from here down to the Channel Tunnel, across France to the ski resort, up the to the Alpine resort, skied for a week, drove the bastard thing back, no problem.
That's like an extra in a James Bond movie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Somebody something's happened in James Bond, and it's just the husband and wife in their Testarossa going to ski in France.
That's the kind of thing I want to say that I did. Like
I just went
up and I went skiing in the TR. You know?
Well, that's how cool Matt and Betty are. That's how cool they are.
That's awesome.
They've offered me the car before. He said, if you ever want to borrow it, just borrow it. He said it's one of the most reliable classics I've ever owned, and yet it's an 80s Ferrari. I don't understand.
Have you driven one?
No, I've never driven a Testarossa. No, I'm pretty sure I haven't. I've been a passenger in one, but not I've never driven one. So there's a few cars I've not driven like that.
I'm always that guy who's like super respectful of like the auction cars. You know, like when you're at we go to Barrett Jackson every year. We're heading out there next week actually in Scottsdale, but you don't mess with anything. If you're not going to buy it, don't touch it. Don't go near it. That I find myself standing there next to a red '89 Testarossa, and you were there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I gotta sit in it. I've got to fucking sit in this car, and I did.
Yep.
I mean, very respectfully. Slid myself in there. No, but it felt cool.
Are you ever gonna? Do you think you're ever gonna get one? Do you think is it the thing which is it like on Wayne's World where Wayne wants that guitar?
Yeah, it will be mine. Oh yes. Yeah, it's gonna be, and then I'm gonna gather Josh and Phil around. I'm gonna tell them that I'm feeling saucy today, and I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. But I'm particular.
No stairway, Wayne.
Yeah, I'm particular. It's gotta be white, and white on white is realistically what I'm looking for.
Wow,
make it more rare.
Okay.
Yeah, Bianco.
Would you buy a crash damage one and rebuild it? You know, with your skills, or
I'm trying to use a lot of restraint.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah. So I know myself. So if that happens, then it's getting like a modern Ferrari motor with it's gonna be $1 million Testarossa, right?
You just need one that's too nice to fuck with, nice enough to drive.
I know myself well enough to know I'm trying to find the thing that I won't fuck with. I'll just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time finding that. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like where I'm at with my Dodge. If it happened to be a numbers matching car and it's a manual and it's a 383, but a lot of people were like, you should have 440'd it, or you should Hemi, modern Hemi it. And I'm like, well, if I bought it with no engine in it, incomplete car, then it'd be a different story. But that particular car is just nice the way it is. It's weathered. We've mechanically rebuilt it, and it sort of tells a bit of a story. And that's why I like putting miles on it. And I don't mind parking it in a supermarket car park. And if somebody runs a key on it or opens a door onto it, it's okay because it's already got some marks and dings and scratches on it. So it kind of looks, it's just part of its character. When it was 10 years old, I gave it a 10-year birthday present, and I gold plated one of the bumper. I don't know what you call the overrider, the bumper guards.
Little bumperettes.
So it's got a little bumperette. So it's one of them's now gold, like a gold tooth, just for its 10-year birthday, because it's a bit of a nasty looking car. So it's a bit sinister.
Oh, what do you got? You got a 440 in that thing or what?
Have you ever watched Joe Dirt? The movie Joe Dirt?
No.
Oh, you're gonna have to give that one a watch too.
Dude, that's what I'm thinking. He's over here talking about how he's got this like patinaed Dodge Charger with a 440 or something. And I'm like, in America, how we portray that is Joe Dirt.
Yeah,
like,
it's Joe Dirt.
Over there, it's like, he's very eclectic.
It's David Spade.
Yeah, he has great taste. It's like, man, he likes these American cars.
You've got to watch Joe Dirt, and that'll make you check.
Or maybe don't.
It's a great look, Joe Dirt.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I think it's if it wasn't the sort of condition that it was, with interesting patination and stuff, I would have painted it almost certainly. But I'd love to find out the history of the car. Actually, I imported it myself from San Diego, but I don't know its proper history. I believe it was a San Francisco from new car, which is probably why the back end was rotten. But in my dream head, I think, it was somebody bought it after watching Bullet. They ordered it, and then they ordered it with non-servo drum brakes all round and non-power steering, and they nearly died every morning on the way to work in San Francisco.
Is that your tip of the spear? Is that your Wayne's World guitar car? What is the one you will have one day?
What's your stairway to heaven?
It will, but there's a few it will be mine. It is a bit cliche for a motoring journalist to want a 911. I would love an early 911 or possibly a 356, because to me the 356 is still one of the prettiest silhouettes of any car. It just looks right to me. I love it. I think that's fantastic. So that's a bucket list car.
We need to hook him up with Rod Emery and just get,
get it out of my system.
Build. Yeah.
Yeah, just get it out of my system. So that's definitely up there. And I think there's probably a couple of American cars, but I just need to finish the ones I've started rather than kind of delve into more.
Dude, your wife's not going to listen to this. It doesn't matter. You can just say whatever you want.
Well, do you know that it's a really odd thing to want? But if you remember the old 60s puppet series, Thunderbirds, I don't know if you're familiar with the Thunderbirds.
No, I don't know the Thunderbirds.
So in the 60s, this sort of these people they created these kids TV shows with realistic puppets and real pyrotechnics, and it was quite pioneering for its time. And one of them was called Thunderbirds, one of them was called Stingray, and one of them was called Captain Scarlet. And in Thunderbirds, there's a sort of a female like Secret Service lady who's a bit saucy, and she drove around in a pink Rolls Royce with 6 wheels, with like a futuristic bubble top. And it was made up, it was all made up, and it was a scale model because all the puppets were about, 18 inches tall or something. And ever since Thunderbirds, I've always thought, I need to build one of those. There is one in existence. They built a full-size one for the promotion of Thunderbirds back in the 60s, but I don't know if anyone's ever built another. So I would love to build a 6-wheeled roller with a bubble top, just like that. It was called Fab 1. The number plate, I think, said Fab 1.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's a pretty out there one. Yeah,
that's out there, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've always had a thing for 6-wheeled cars, even though I know they're a bit shit and a bit pointless.
Josh has been talking about taking his H2 and doing it like a 6x2.
Yeah, but I wanted
6x4.
4 wheels on the front.
Yeah, you wanted them
like the elf car, like the race.
But you wanted them I thought you wanted them on the back. That has them on the front.
Yeah, I wanted them on the front.
That has them on the front. That's steers. That's 2 steering axles.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna ride around in a Hummer H2 with 4 wheels on the back. That's a douchebag move. I'm gonna put him on the front where everyone's like, oh, he's cultured,
so everybody can see them.
Well, yeah, he's
cultured.
Could you
go 8? Could you go 8-wheel, or is that just silliness?
Dude, put it on fucking tank tracks.
If you did 8-wheel, you'd have to do 8-wheel steer.
No, that's going on
tank tracks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that fits your MO.
I don't know how we didn't think of that before. That is
actually
absolutely going on tank tracks.
It would look good on tank tracks.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
not the bolt-on 4 tank tracks. You're talking one per side.
An actual tank.
You think
with a pivoting cab?
Oh,
that's
shit.
that's a flex because
is this happening?
Yeah, the 4 is like he found a kid, he bolted it on. The 2 like traditional real deal.
Spec. Yeah.
That's like this dude knows what's going on. He's got something special.
You better not build me one like that. And seriously,
you better not.
You guys better not do that.
If going back to the chat about like old fashioned kind of trucks and those SUVs of the 70s and things, or they're not quite SUVs. What are they? Off-roaders. I'd have a Scout, an International Harvester Scout, is it?
Sure, yeah.
Quite like those. They're not quite as popular as the Bronco. They don't have the prestige of the Bronco, but I know there's been a few good builds of them, but I'd quite like one of them. A friend of mine in this country's got a International Harvester pickup from the early 50s, would it be? Early, mid-50s? He's had it years. Huh. That's quite a rare groove thing.
Yeah, here they're pretty readily available. I mean, the Scout is like the most common barn find vehicle, or like
they're always the side of the barn.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Really? Oh yeah, when you're out west, like go through Wyoming, that is the one vehicle that's always in like just behind the carport.
It's just what's crazy is this. And that, I mean, I don't want to go off onto a tangent, but it's so funny how we talk about this with modern cars today, and there's never a car that checks every single box perfectly. The Scout, it's so far superior to the Bronco.
Yeah, it's a better
build quality.
Yeah, it's a better built vehicle.
And size wise, it's way more ergonomically correct on the inside. But the outside, then it's got some weird things going on that makes it just a little bit ugly, right? And the Bronco looks better. Yeah. From looking at the Bronco.
It's like, I feel like the Scout's the checker cab version of the 55 Bel Air. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like in comparison.
Something's a little bit off, but you don't know what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's cruel. Poor thing.
It's still a 55.
Checker cabs, are they collectible and stuff? I've always quite liked a checker cab.
Not
it's basically
at all.
in every 80s film. Every 80s movie.
Not collectible at all.
No.
I think they just crush them. I don't know where they go.
That's a shame.
They go to NSRA and somebody puts a small block with a blower on it.
No, they go to back to the 50s, Minnesota.
Yeah, Grove Street.
What about the those airport cars they used to make, like the 8-door stretch wheelbase? Have you ever seen the airport limousines that they used to do that were factory built? They used to do like Oldsmobiles, and there was a Buick, and they were a factory car, and they just had 8 identical sized doors all the way along, and they used to do airport runs in them. And one came up for sale in Germany about 2 years ago. My friend was threatening to buy it. Nobody wants it because it's a bit of a liability. You've got 3 times the amount of car to restore. But such a strange idea.
I've never seen it with all the doors. I mean, obviously I'm familiar with like the limousines of the 70s and 80s. I was actually just eyeballing one on Bring a Trailer this morning. Yeah, early 80s or mid 80s Cadillac limo. Just
was it bad?
Mint.
Or was it good?
Oh, I mean, I want to buy it to daily drive it, but I don't like. I want somebody to drive it for me, but like I want it to be my buddy so we can like hang. Like I want to hang, like chill in the back, switch off.
Is it like the one? Is that the one like the one in Die Hard? Is it Die Hard where the limo driver's out in the car park? I'm trying to remember which film it is.
Yeah, Die Hard.
And he spends the whole film just sitting in the car waiting to be told when to pick somebody up.
It's like your classic.
Die Hard's a great movie.
Square body. Would you call it like a square body?
Cadillac?
Yeah.
That would be
That's
like
a box.
Or like a Brougham or a Brougham.
Brougham, yeah. My caddy Fleetwood was a Brougham. I don't even know what it means, but it was one.
It means you better lock it up at night if it's a Brougham.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it means it's super nice. Next up, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh. Well, one of them is an obvious one, which I've been told a few times because I'm a bit of a procrastinator, and I'm going to write it down. I'm going to have it as a thing on the wall. It just says,
"You just haven't gotten to it yet."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just if you do nothing, nothing will happen, and it's like, oh yeah, and it's so stupidly obvious. So that was, and then, but the best piece of advice I ever got when I first started working on the TV was a producer was chatting to me, and he said, there's going to be days when you're tired, you don't really want to go on camera, you've got to like bring the energy and just get through it. But he said, the one thing you must never do, don't ever piss off the people around you that make you look and sound good. Don't do that. And I really remembered that because I've heard there's been people that have burnt, the crew just because they're in a bad mood, or maybe their ego's got a bit too big or something. And I always thought, don't do that, because their job is to make you, the presenter, look and sound the best you can possibly be. Without them, you're nothing.
If you could go back in time at any point in time, what time would it be, and what would you tell yourself?
Oh, shit. I thought you were going to say, like, just pick a time. I don't have to be alive or not.
Oh, no, you got to be alive, and you got to tell yourself
I got to be alive. Oh, that's a good one. That's a really, really good one. I've never been asked that before.
It can't be, don't do this podcast.
Or maybe it is.
It's probably the night I lost my virginity, and it was probably like, listen, this isn't going to be as good as what you were hyping it up to be, but don't worry, it does get better, and you hopefully get better. And by the way, in about 15 minutes, she's going to cry, but it's not for the reason that
That's the best one we've had.
That's hilarious because as he's saying that, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, I've never been asked that question. I'm like, I'd be like, yeah, dude, go for it. Like, she's down. She's ready.
Well, I remember it, and it was a strange night, unfortunately. But hey, you live and learn. You live and learn.
Yeah,
I'll leave you on a cliffhanger.
Well, you feel like,
and that was that was at a car show. Yeah, that was at a car show in a caravan. Romantic times.
A Dodge Caravan.
No, just like a you guys call them trailers. Like a static caravan thing. All right. Yeah, so it was classy, really classy. I think we were drinking cider as well.
Yeah, classier.
Just to make
classier than the backseat of a LeBaron.
Sure.
I was gonna say if it was a Chrysler Caravan and yours was a Chrysler LeBaron. Yeah.
Oh, the LeBaron. See that there's an irony car. The LeBaron. I mean, they were so shit, weren't they?
Easy.
We're taking a southward turn here. Yeah. That's
the K car. You guys call them the K cars? Is that right? Or
K cars different.
Yeah, I believe we called them the LeBaron, which is
made it French.
It
sounds
wasn't
a little bit nicer.
French though.
Yeah,
just because you say it
in our house, it was.
Yeah, it's a soft R, LeBaron. Like you just LeBaron.
LeBaron.
LeBaron. It's like that's the sort of car that there's a stereotypical like. What does the person look like who drives that? And it's like
everybody in our high school.
Really? Yeah, that was the car.
Yeah.
Of, I mean, my first girlfriend had a LeBaron. Everybody around in the mid '90s had LeBarons.
Go to.
It was like a affordable convertible 2-door. It was really the only.
It was the Toyota Camry of the day.
It was. It absolutely was.
Yeah. But a drop
top. It had Infinity. Sorry, not Bose. Infinity stereo.
You, Maserati used it as the base of their sports car.
Maserati?
Yes, the Maserati basically just
made their name off of it.
Yeah, they stole
Maserati
the whole
shebang. Through a low patch.
They stole the whole shebang. They put a little opera window in it.
And a hardtop.
Yeah, put their name on it and boom, Maserati.
What is the worst? Oh, there's a Cadillac which was based upon a German Catera. Do you know what? The Catera is actually the car it's based on is actually a good car. In the UK, a lot of people used to buy those as budget drift cars because there's a really good steering angle and they're actually quite good control on the limit. So you can take the piss. But I actually thought I know they're hated in America, aren't they? The Catera.
I haven't seen one since a year after they came out. So since like 96, I haven't seen one.
Brian Hoder's mom had one.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I remember
that.
You need to find one.
Oh my God.
You need to find one. We had them as police cars over here.
Did you really?
There were police parts that you could fit on them and they were quite hot. The 3.2 6-speed manual, limited slip diff.
Damn.
Cop shocks. Yeah, they're quite good.
Shocks.
They're quite handy.
Cop tires.
Yes, exactly.
I had a good buddy in high school, middle school. His dad actually just passed away about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But growing up, we were young. I remember him telling we had just met. Like this was like freshman year. He had just came to the school. I just came to school. We met and started hanging out. Be kind of becoming friends. He's like, hey, you want to come hang out at my house this weekend? And yeah, no problem. So we're headed up there, and he's like, my dad's got a Maserati. I'm like, oh, so you got money. Well, then it ended up being that Maserati.
You got taste too.
Yeah. Dude, that square front of a DeLorean, basically the front of a DeLorean, like the rest of it.
That's not the one we're talking about.
It's an awkward beast.
When you bring that up, that brings up like crazy memories for me. My early racing career. I basically came to it. I honed myself in a Maserati. It's a racing car, we called it. So he would probably know more what this was. So a friend of mine, Alex Litchfield, his dad, he was one of those dudes. You know the guy who had like the old ass dad?
Yes.
You know what I mean? His dad, yeah.
Ancient dad.
Yeah. His dad, you know, we were kids. We were kids. I had just turned 16. He was 15. His dad was like 97 years old. Right. Yeah. And his dad, he had like some cataract deal going on. He couldn't see well. He was almost blind, and he kind of wasn't real with it. Well, in the garage is a...
You're painting quite the picture.
Yeah, in the garage... In the garage is this...
Leaving broken hearts in every town, yeah?
Yeah, in this garage is this Maserati. And my friend, he's telling me, he's like, yeah, my dad has this Maserati. It's like a sports car. But, you know, the car just sits there. He says, like, do what you want with it. I don't know how to drive it. It's a stick shift, right? I'm like... Well, yeah, dude. I'm like, let's rip this thing.
You're in luck.
You know, I'm like,
I know how to drive a stick shift.
You are in luck because I taught myself how to drive stick shift on my brother's 70 Challenger. So I'm pretty good at it, right? Well, he lives in this brand new development. You know, it was like all those like row homes, twisty, like curvy roads and everything. All I remember is that the shift pattern is a little weird in them, right? Isn't it like first is like back and down or something?
Oh, is it a dog leg, like a dog leg first, as we call it?
Yeah.
So it's where second normally is.
Right. So we're running through this thing, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, it's compared to a 70 Challenger with a 4-speed. Yeah. I mean, dude, this is
a lot more gears.
It's like a Formula One car, right? I'm just rowing through gears, and we're driving this thing around, and I'm cranking. So now we start, you know, we're doing laps, right? And I'm getting faster,
getting
faster,
little cocky,
yeah, confident. You're getting cocky. You come around the back. You come around the back straight. Right,
you money shifted it, didn't you?
This is just like in your like friend's neighborhood.
Oh yeah. My friend, when you're 16, you're not thinking about
this is the shit we do in America.
Yeah, so we roll off. I come around and off the apex, and I'm in it. Right, second, third, fourth. I mean, I'm probably doing 65, 70 miles an hour. Goose in the middle of the road.
An actual goose.
Yeah, a real goose.
So a single goose.
Yeah,
a geese.
A
single.
But
goose.
We had been. We're clocking lap times, right? I'm trying to best my lap time. The goose is not going to prevent me from besting my lap. I mean, I hit every corner. I'm coming down that home stretch.
Goose has wings. It can fly.
This episode is getting demonetized for sure.
You may have to cut this. And my friend, he kind of gives me like a, dude, there's a fucking goose. 5th gear.
Never check.
The goose won't. No shit's given with the goose. They won't back out.
Yeah, fuck goose. The goose. Exactly.
But geese never back out.
Yeah, the goose wasn't backing out, and neither was I. So
they don't.
I'm glad you know exactly what we have to deal with.
I do. Right? There's a local farm to me, and instead of having a guard dog, they have guard geese. I kid you not.
Oh yeah.
Because they say they make no noise and they're bold as fuck. They won't give up. They'll just come at you and they'll hiss and they wake the dead. So he said it's just better. They're less maintenance than a dog. Let's have some
but they are
geese.
not
no match for a Maserati.
Not bolder than a Maserati.
Did damage the Maserati?
No, not at all. Just right under feathers everywhere. I mean, across the whole fucking neighborhood. Yeah.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am. As a 16-year-old kid trying to, set record lap times.
Yeah, what was your lap time on that?
I don't remember now. I mean, but
I still can't believe you're doing 60 around a neighborhood in a borrowed Maserati.
Well, it wasn't mine.
He's like, what's the worst that could happen?
Meanwhile, the old dad who owns it can't even see it.
Yeah.
And he's just hearing this thing being screamed around the estate.
He couldn't see shit, so we're all good. Like,
I've got a question for you guys. Just thought.
Yeah.
We're talking about cars which sort of should be cool again, but they're always being kind of pushed out. Station wagons.
Awesome.
Come on. They need their time. Their time is now, surely.
Yeah, they're
awesome. What do we think?
I'd spent way too much time looking out the back window of an 86 custom cruiser.
And the carbon monoxide took.
Yeah, because it had that little wing and then that back window that was power.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
We picked up that, was it LTD?
Yeah, it was a 1986 Oldsmobile custom cruiser.
Yeah, we snagged Impulse Buy on the way home from work one day. Me and my buddy picked up an LTD for like $600 or $700. Mint, absolutely mint. It's like a 5.0. It had
it's a 5-liter beater.
The motor looked like a fucking Fox body Mustang.
Because
like
it was.
Yeah, it had the same intake and everything. The thing was awesome, dude. I mean,
you should have. You tell me you kept it.
we kept
Yeah,
it
you're
for
not
a
going to want
while,
to hear this.
but a lot like
He's
that.
a little rough on the old cars there.
A lot like the Dukes of Hazzard thing you got going on in the background. Very similar
you didn't
story.
do that with it, did you?
We did.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah.
And it was a lovely, like, old person worshipped example.
Absolutely mint.
Oh, you bastard!
Mint. Yeah. Oh yeah. We sent that thing. There are some great pictures of that sucker just flying through the air and just folded it
In the
folded
snow.
it up.
Yeah.
Really, you bet you bent the thing.
It tacoed the whole car.
Yeah, they don't jump. They don't jump like they do in the movies.
Yeah, amazingly enough, it's a little nose heavy.
Every time. Just
Poor thing.
Yeah.
She bananaed it.
oh yeah.
But that era station wagon is what your mind goes to.
Yeah.
But I mean, Phil, you drive a station wagon every day.
I do. I daily a station wagon.
Yeah,
Do
Phil's-
you?
Yep.
Yeah.
What have you got, Phil?
I got a Audi RS6.
Oh, sweet. You've gone in at the top. Okay. No pissing around there.
I think that's
I
more
went
of a
all in.
shooting brake than it is, isn't it?
It could be a shooting brake, yes.
That's that's the far. Which era is that? Is it V8 twin turbo, V10, or
V8 twin turbo with the 21.
Okay. Well, when they first did the V8 twin turbo in the early 2000s, I'm going to say like 2003, so again 20 years ago nearly. We were doing a group test on that and a couple of other really fast cars for a magazine, like Performance Car of the Year shootout thing. And at the end of the shoot, the editor said, "Look, this has got to go back to Germany." It was on German plates, really early version. And he said, "Johnny, do you want to drive it back to Germany?" I went, "Yeah." When? He goes, "Oh, but tomorrow." I'm like, "Yeah, fucking too right." I was just, single guy, early 20s. So I just had money for fuel and a ticket for the Channel Tunnel to drive across to France. And I was like, that was de-restricted. It was the Plus model. And that's still the fastest I've ever driven a car legally on the road in Germany on the Autobahn. I got 187 out of that, 188. And
Bam.
up to about 130, I was with there was a couple of Spanish guys in a Ferrari. I forget which Ferrari. I think it was a 456. And I absolutely blitzed it. And then over 130, I could just see they were starting to come in then, where the aero of the Audi was starting to get the better of it. But we were playing around for ages on this huge deserted Autobahn. And then after, I don't know, 10 minutes of that, and I pretty much ripped through half a tank of fuel at that speed. We were all slowing down because there was some congestion coming towards a city, and they were like, respect. And because it had a dog guard in it. I remember, I think the first time I've ever driven that fast on the road, and I look in the rearview mirror and there's a fucking dog guard. I'm thinking, I'm not even in a supercar, I'm in a family estate car with a dog guard.
It's like a roll cage.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
honestly, it's just such an impressive car. They still are. It's still so impressive.
If you put your hand up at the wheels from the top, from there up, my H2 looks like a station wagon, right? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just like a boxier version.
Something like that.
It's the Volvo.
H2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you
Andrew has 47 Volvos that he drives to work every day.
He's got a
I
lot
was
of
going to
them.
ask him on Saab, but you're going to ask him on Volvo?
No, I'm more like, where do you stand on the Previa?
Prev. Well, do you know the thing about the Prev is they're owned by a certain type of person in the UK, people that like having lots of children. And they are really hard to kill. So you guys have demolition derby type people.
Yeah.
We call them banger races over here. So and banger racing is quite competitive. It's become a bit too feral now. It was feral in the first place. And the Prev is the weapon of choice for a lot of people because the engine's quite inboard.
It's a mid-engine.
supercar. I guess
It's mid-engine, right? It's a mid-engine rear-wheel drive exotic vehicle.
Might be pushing the definition of mid-engine, but that's neither here nor there.
It's right here.
Front mid. So the good thing about it in banger racing terms is you can give it, full throttle head-on impacts time and time again, and the engine's still chuckling away, no bother, because it's right next to your feet.
Yeah, but that's where you are.
That's where you are. I know, but I can forward you some videos of Prevs putting up with more punishment than you can ever imagine a car and still going, yeah, I'm still on. I'm still all right.
You're not helping us out because Jeremy's been on the hunt for a Previa.
Dude, me and Mike are gonna design like the raddest Previa. Like super.
Can you do roof chop Prev?
Well, I'm thinking like super car level, like
DTM wide body.
Yeah, basically. Picture this. Picture Formula One car mixed with
Nerf football.
What was the Kodak race car way back in the day? Was it a Mazda or the MPV? What was the
MPV?
It was a van. It was a van, but full wide body, like.
Oh, the Renault Espace F1.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
To promote Renault's Formula One team, they did the Espace MPV, but with an F1 engine. The thing was amazing.
It's basically you take an F1 car, put full fenders on it, and then just take the minivan and stick it in the middle.
Honestly, it was central driving position minivan, F1 engine minivan. Yeah, on YouTube, there's this video of that going around one of the circuits doing like a parade lap.
Is that what you're going to do with the Previa?
You could do, DTM Prev would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, over here they're worth nothing over here. Do you want me to send you one over?
Please do.
I've got stick it on the slope. I tell you what we'll do. We'll do like a swap meet. So you stick on the boat. I don't know, a Buick Roadmaster, one of those '90s last of the.
Oh, they're real Roadmaster.
We should just do. We honestly should just do a swap, and nobody knows what's coming.
Yeah,
we do a swap scene. We go, look, I'll pay the shipping my end. You pay the shipping at your end, and they'll cross the ocean like that.
Surprise.
And then, I'll get you a Prev. I'll get you a dirty Prev if that's what you want.
Absolutely.
You want the night like a real '90s one, like the two-door.
Yeah, silver. Like that kind of like
silver blue
with a little bluish hue. Yeah.
I met a guy once who'd stripped the whole interior out of one of those, and all it had was a driving seat and a huge hammock, a full length of the car hammock that he used to sleep in. It was so random. And then like books and of course a guitar in the back. So he just used to like sing himself to sleep or something. I don't know.
I had a buddy like that, had a hammock in his van, but he traveled around chasing fish and selling grilled cheeses.
Oh, wow. Interesting guy.
Yeah, he was fun. Last but not least, second to last, if you had to give some advice to any future entrepreneurial content creators wanting to get in and say, you know what, I want to get in the automotive field. I want to do interviews. I want to, do YouTube. I want to do Instagram. I want to be an influencer. I'm young. I want to do this. What advice would you give them?
Oh, okay. I think, two things. The old saying, persistence pays, I think is probably a good one. I mean, I was pretty persistent at nagging people for work experience and stuff to try and get my foot in the door in this industry. So I think that's always good. And then secondly, is don't be afraid to kind of find your niche. Don't be afraid to be different. There's so many people that just follow the herd, and there's only a certain amount of supercar chasing kind of or socially awkward people out there that we need. So go for something different, celebrate the nerdy. I think one positive thing about the internet and YouTube and Instagram and all the social media, it allows people to fully nerd out in a better way than ever. It's cool to be a train spotter if you do it with conviction. It's cool to like shit cars if you deliver information about it. Celebrate the fact that you like shit cars. I think I would go headlong into find the niche that you're really passionate about. If it's a bit unique to what else is out there, do it, but then just properly go for it. Do it full throttle and nag people, really nag people. And before you start talking on camera, practice. It doesn't have to be too formal. I don't mean it because you want it to be formal and a bit straight, but you want it to be like you're talking to a friend in the pub. So it's sort of funny, but at the same time, it's always loaded with good information. It really irritates me when I watch videos of people who they basically switch the camera on and then they immediately tell you that they've done no research and they don't really know what this car is. It's like, well, for fuck's sakes, put the camera down, go on, spend half an hour with a coffee and actually look up what the fuck you're doing and then start the camera. That's the way we do it. Because otherwise you're just showing everybody that you're a twat.
Right.
So just rewind and just think about the way you're doing this. It's just obvious. It's like, why I wouldn't take a car apart if I hadn't looked up how to take the car apart because it's going to go wrong. isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
I can't believe we
have done that.
It took this long to get to the twat because that is, and my wife's going to laugh at this because we've got two like Netflix addictions, and one of them was Ricky Gervais's Afterlife on Netflix, right?
Gosh.
And loved that, and I mean, and we laugh all the time because and I say twat, but obviously twat is the way twat. It's a common word. It's commonplace just in the vernacular. It's just used all the time. And the other one we won't talk about as far as what we watched on Netflix, but it's also Great British Bake Off is one of the greatest shows.
It is Great British Bake Off. I know Paul Hollywood. He's a nice guy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I do know him. Yeah. In fact, I DM'd him a couple of days ago, and because I was watching the Christmas one,
dude,
you just lit up.
I'm like super stoked right now. Forget everything else.
He's really into his bikes and his cars. I mean, properly into his bikes.
He's a car guy.
He's a big car guy. Yeah. He loves his. I mean, he loves his. He's very into Aston Martins, but bikes wise, I think he's more into bikes than cars. He loves bikes. He doesn't talk about it much, but he's properly into them.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he might even own an ex-MotoGP like works bike.
Really?
Yeah. He's hardcore bikes.
Hey, Hollywood. I can tell. You can tell in his eyes. Hollywood fucks.
In our Smith and Sniff podcast, we actually did a whole episode once about how this is before. Was it before I met him? We tried to work out what he would smell like if you met him. And we came to the conclusion that he's one of those guys that just smells really good. Really, really good. You go in for the handshake and you go, shit, I'm not even gay, but you smell amazing.
Yeah. I could see him. You know how you come across the guys that smell good, but it's overpowering, and you want
very overpowering.
You don't want to be around it for long. But Paul Hollywood is
the right level.
Always fresh and clean, smells good, but it's not overbearing. Like you find yourself going in for just another little embrace for just one more sniff.
Just one more at the end of the night. Yeah, it's really great to meet you. Yeah, the arm goes in like that, like a drunk wedding.
Anybody that's listening right now that's watched Great British Bake Off knows exactly what we're talking about. You guys just don't know.
Do you think there's anybody listening that has watched Great British Bake Off?
Great British Bake Off is a fucking gem. It's awesome.
Do you know what? But so we do a T-shirt on the Late Break Show called the Great British Break Off. Obviously.
Oh, really?
Words. I can see it just behind me. I could run over and get one and show you.
I'm gonna have to get one of those shirts.
I can send one to you. Again, we could do a merchandise amnesty where I send you some across the ocean, you send me some across the ocean.
We should do that.
Be easier than the cars. We'll try it. Start with this.
Yeah, we'll start with shirts.
Start with the t-shirts and we'll work up to the car. Then we'll do mini bikes, and then we'll do I don't know, strange tools. And then we'll.
Johnny, this has been amazing.
It's been awesome, dude. I've got something. I don't want to like exploit the accent, but I need to ask a favor of you. So my daughter's 9 years old, and when I pick her up every night right down the street at gymnastics, and she's a very colorful personality. She loves to fuck with me with the British accent, so we go back and forth.
She talks in the British accent?
She talks in a British accent, and she likes to tell him like insult her mother. So we go back and forth, and I try to feed her some things. So we can cut this all out. This is just more personal.
I love the positioning that she insults her mother.
No, she does. So we go back and forth with this thing, and she says, "Mummy, piss off. That's a bunch of rubbish." And then we go back, and forth. So her name's Charlie. You got to give me something that says I'm Charlie, and then insult the shit out of her mother.
What, really,
or give me something. Just give me some. Well, not
insult a 9-year-old.
Well, not the 9-year-old. Just give it like
your wife. You want him to insult your wife?
Well, yeah, because you got to give her something to say that, like, hey, Charlie, like,
tell your mom.
Charlie, tell your mom.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah,
understood.
Oh, I'm trying to think of something. So, what would I say?
I'm putting you on the spot, man. I mean, you gotta just flow. You know, you gotta.
There's so many options for how you can insult people.
You gotta teach her the twat.
The twats.
Just say, hi, Charlie. don't call your mum a twat, unless of course she is a twat, and then you can say, listen, mum, I love you to pieces, you're a wonderful woman, you do so much for me, but sometimes you can be a bit of a twat.
That's awesome.
Perfect. That's all I needed, man.
And Daddy talks out of his toothless mouth. He needs to stop doing that.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that,
Johnny.
I'm now interested in hearing your 9-year-old throwing all the insults out in British. It's just very strange. What on earth got her into that?
She's like, she's got this crazy personality. So every day it's like I pick her up from gymnastics right down the street. So I get out of work and it's like 7:45. I got to roll over there, and she's just got this thing every day. It's like a new accent, and she's got I don't know where she just picks it up. And
Just
it's
exploring accents
every day. And she's pretty damn good at it. You know, it's kind of fun.
Wow. She might end up using that to her advantage in a career. Who knows? She needs to use the term, when she's a bit older, use the term piss artist. That's a good one. We use that one a lot.
Piss artist.
Someone's an absolute piss artist.
Okay.
I tell you what, I've heard this from Chris before, and I've heard it on other shows too, how are you supposed to fuck all? It means fuck all.
It means fuck all. Absolutely fuck all. It means nothing. Yeah.
I can't ever use it because I don't think about it when it comes up, but when I hear it, I'm like,
My brother says that quite a lot.
Fuck all.
Yeah.
Fuck all.
Yeah, fuck all. I don't think I'm trying to think. Tosser's not really said much in the States, is it? Wanker's not really a thing. Bollock porridge, that's a fun one. Don't talk to your daughter about that. That's not fit for 9-year-old consumption. That one. Do you know what we do? It's something that we started doing at school years ago. You know, this is before I knew about what stroker engines were, but we used to call people that were like, like this. We used to call people strokers. So you go, that guy that's just like constantly flexing in front of the girls when we're playing rugby. He's an absolute stroker, an absolute stroker. And then, of course, fast forward, 10 years, 12 years, and people start talking about stroker engine. I'm learning about engines. I'm going, stroker engine? What are you talking about? Is it one of those engines?
Oh
yeah! There we go.
This has been really good.
It's been
we had no
man.
idea what to expect. I think we definitely need to do this again. We had a great time hanging out.
Count me in.
Super
Thank you.
cool, man.
I'm pleased that you wanted me to come on. So thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Hey,
awesome.
if you put this together and you make a U.S. trip, man, you've got to come up to the Midwest, and we'll show you what it's all about.
Yeah,
we'd love to do it.
We'll put you behind the wheel, a bunch of cool American stuff you can rip.
You can. I'm going to hold you to that. I would love to do that.
You
That'd
got
be
it,
really
dude.
good.
Absolutely.
That'd be really good. We'll have to hunt down a Le Baron.
Lebanon.
Le Baron sleeper. Now you're talking.
You got it.
The gauntlet has been laid for that.
That'd be awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, we seriously need to do that. It'd be some good content. We'll get a LeBaron here. You drive the LeBaron, and then we'll drive a
Previa.
Previa. Maybe some of the latest Roadster Shop creations.
Perfect.
It's like a sort of contraception avoiders car, the Prev.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's one of those. Yeah. But they are good. They're well engineered. You've got to hand it to them. They're very good.
I appreciate it, Johnny. We'll have to do it again.
Well,
thanks, dude.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Oil and Whiskey Podcast with Roadster Shop, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a rating and review. Thanks again to our guest, Jonny Smith. We'll see you again next week.